Yeah, the headset's nice. It kind of like keeps you in there, you know? I feel like it. You could also just like monitor your voice and shit.
All right, now I feel official. Damn.
Yeah, you are official. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like it keeps you like in the
vibe.
Yeah, like you lose track of time. Not to mention like this windowless room.
I feel like I'm almost in like a little separate space now.
You are.
It's all different.
I got these fucking foggy ass glasses, man. I'm always running around this bitch. I need like a helper.
It's funny because I started wearing glasses right when COVID happened. And I had like reading glasses, and every time I put on, my shit would fog up instantly. I was like, yo, fuck glasses.
Yeah, every time I'm like, well, because before I start these podcasts, I always have to set up so many things, you know. And so by the time I sit down, I'm like sweating. You know? And then I got the fog.
Yeah.
In the last episode, I had a big fog thing on my glasses, and I'm like leaving it there. And then I realized, like, wait, what the fuck? This is not Hollywood. I can fucking wipe them, you know.
And that's it. Nothing gonna give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man. But thanks again for coming here. You know,
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. It was a blast.
Yeah, cool, man. It's cool that you just like, you know, because I was asking like a lot of, you know, whoever, you know, come on down.
Yeah.
And you were just like, fuck yeah, and you just booked a flight. And like, here you are, you know.
Yeah. I was like, hell yeah, I'll take advantage. I've been watching for a minute and like fucking, I always wanted to do it. So I was like, when you asked me, I was like, oh, I'm down.
Yeah, because I had the old podcast too.
Yeah.
And shit like that. And I you know, stopped that with the COVID and all that.
COVID fucked up a lot of shit.
Because I like it when we're here. You know what I mean? I don't like the whole like Zoom thing. Like,
No.
I just feel like
it's not the same, and it's just like a different vibe. And then fucking technical difficulties like between going through is always a pain in the ass.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like always wondering when I should have a glass of whiskey. I think I'm gonna go right for it here.
It's 5 o'clock sometime.
Yeah. Well, I think it actually is 5 o'clock. Hey, whatever. Do you want some?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Rock it out. Fuck yeah. It's like the drunk cast. Help yourself too.
It reminds me of it's that one podcast with like Noriega where they just drink champs or some shit.
Is that what they do?
Yeah, they just literally you get drunk. They have like a whole bunch of different liquors, smoke blunts and shit.
That wasn't my intention in doing this. I love seeing this. This is a first for me. It's cool. The Coke in the Glencairn glass. You get the little sniff thing with the Coke. It's cool. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. How long? I mean, I don't know. It's like, how long have you been tattooing? I guess is what I should ask.
Right now, it's since I did my apprenticeship, probably like 8 years now.
8 years. Okay.
8 years, and there was like maybe like 3 years or 2 years where I just kind of like scratched a little bit at my like, I say at my house, and when I lived in Orlando when I was going to college.
I love that. I always love hearing that because I did the same, and it's like, it's almost like why you become a tattoo artist, you know? Because like people like to like say, oh, you know, you should, you know, get an apprenticeship and do it right, but it's like the core of being a tattoo artist to me is like rooted in rebellion.
Yeah.
So the fact that you like scratch in your house meant you were just gonna like do what you wanted,
and it just made me like, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna just wait for the best opportunity to do it. I'm just gonna take as much as I learn. And it ended up working out because that's when I got my apprenticeship in Miami at Chico's Mark for Life. It was just, he just see me, like I did a couple of posts, but at the time I was studying aerospace engineering.
Really?
Yeah, I went to UCF at the time, and it was just by luck that fucking I kind of came into it because my cousin was dating a tattoo artist, and I used to do graffiti back when I was like in high school.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Not anymore?
Not anymore because I got arrested when I was like 17 for breaking and entering into like a old abandoned Kiss Country radio station that they were tearing down anyways.
That's always like peculiar to me because like, you know, I've done it a little bit, and like I would always go into like a building like that or something and think like, is anyone really gonna care? But it's like weird that sometimes they do.
Oh, they care, and they tore it down like a month later or something like that. But it kind of like ruined everything for me because at the time, because I was born in Venezuela.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question because you started, you just said you started tattooing in Miami.
Yeah.
So, but let's back up for a sec. So you moved from Venezuela to Miami?
Well, I moved originally because I was born, but I came in the United States when I was 4 months old. So I lived my whole life in Florida. I came to Miami first, and then we moved to Orlando because my dad had a landscaping company. Okay. So we all lived in Orlando for a while, and then we moved back to South Florida, and that's when I was like going to high school in there, and I was doing graffiti and shit. And I got into it because I used to love drawing portraits and shit like that, and I just thought it was like something fun. And then I was kind of big, and I knew a lot of like MSG members and stuff like that.
So you were getting up.
Like, yeah, I was getting up a lot. And it was like I was like 17 at the time. But
what did you write?
I used to write ethnic.
Ethnic?
Yeah, I spelled it ETHNYK.
Cool.
And then I had that for a while. We were doing like trains and all that shit. And then
so you were out there. Like you were putting in work. Like
I was putting a lot of work in there. And then like I was probably 17 at the time. And then when we broke into that one place, the other guy who was with me, he kind of got arrested for breaking entries into houses, and he kind of gave up my name.
Oh,
so it was like
so he's like a classic example of a rat.
Yeah, pretty much. And he's like he saved himself because he was getting in trouble for breaking. And the worst part, his mom's a cop. So it was like when it was like really, I didn't expect it because like when we were doing the graph in there, a worker came in.
Okay.
And then
like part of the demo team.
Yeah, they were because they were gonna eventually tear it down, but they were like kind of like moving everything out and stuff like that. And it was like a really small building, and it just happened. It was like I was in maybe my junior year of high school, and then it was like on Halloween too. It was like I skipped school that day and went and did that, and then like when the workers pulled up and we saw, and I went around and I ran out and I dipped.
Okay.
But then I saw a cop came in because this was probably 2000, maybe 2001. And at that time in Florida, if you were like a cop from a different city, you couldn't like arrest anybody.
Yeah, it was like beyond their jurisdiction.
Yeah, so all they could do was like kind of hold you into another, like the cop that was like in that jurisdiction.
Yeah, and you're like, good luck with that. See ya.
I was out. I was gone. Yeah. But apparently the other cop saw him, and then it let him go, and I didn't hear nothing for about 8 months.
Oh, like that.
Yeah, I didn't hear shit about it 8 months. And then
you already like almost forgot about it.
Yeah, I forgot about it. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then they the police station called my parents. And then the reason why I knew he snitched, because at that time the caller D misspelled my last name. It was PLA. My last name is PLA, and they spelled it BLA.
Oh.
So when they called, they asked me my name, and they're like BLA. I was like, nah. And it's like, oh, that's how they gave you a number and all that shit. And I just, at that time, I had a scholarship to go.
Wait, you're saying they asked for your last name wrong on purpose?
No, because
to get you to
my caller ID, my last name there showed my homie, or not really my homie, the guy who snitched on me.
Yeah,
he gave him my house number. Oh, and he thought my last name was BLA.
Because he didn't know you that good.
Yeah, he didn't know
like
me
a street homie out there. You were just writing with him.
I was just getting really big into it, and then I met someone that's like, oh, we're gonna grab. He's like, we got this little pennant, which is essentially just.
So he thought he knew your name. And
and so it's like that was like kind of the trigger. Like, all right, I knew he snitched on me, and then. He calls me the same day I get arrested, which I didn't even get arrested. I kind of turned myself in. I told him like I just need to speak to a lawyer. I'm not saying nothing, blah blah. Yeah. And I didn't hear nothing for a while after it. And then they came and pulled me out of high school for like painting on trains and shit.
And were you under 18?
Yeah, I was like 17 at the time.
So you didn't get charged as an adult or something?
They were trying to. They were trying to at first, and then when they came in, I had a felony for hitting a specific train and like part of the train and shit, and they wanted me to snitch on everybody because it was like a whole group of us. But I was like, nah, I don't really know. I used the excuse that I didn't know anybody's real name. I just knew their tag name, and I can't really do shit like that. And I didn't at that time. We didn't really have cell phones like that, so I didn't have anybody's number saved or anything like that.
Yeah, my man.
It was just like one of those when we see them in school, and that's it. I just knew the tag name.
But when I was a kid, my brother used to tell me snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
And it's like for real for me, like I'll live by that. Like I'll die by that. Like,
It's like why you want to, if you get caught, that's your fault, man.
Yeah, just own it. Eat it. Yeah.
Just take it in. Just, you don't have to get anybody else in trouble and shit.
Yeah.
And more than likely it's not going to help you out unless you're like fucking seeing someone get murdered or some shit.
Yeah. Like at that point, then you're just like, you're giving away information as like a good Samaritan to like potentially help someone, but not like, for someone like writing graffiti or something.
Yeah, no, and usually I look at that. If you guys are going in together and you snitch, and then you're a rat, and then if you see someone get murdered or something like that, you're just a witness. That's it.
Yeah, you're like doing your part to like help somebody. Yeah, like maybe a family get justice for their like murdered kid. Or something. I don't know. So that's good. So I was gonna ask you about like when you moved here, and you told me that it was you. Basically, we're here since you're a little kid.
Yeah, pretty much since then. Because like when I came in, I didn't have my parents lost. My mom lost like her like purse got stolen, and we lost both our I-4 papers. So we didn't have any we didn't have any papers for the longest. But at the time, my dad wasn't a citizen yet. He was in the process of getting citizenship. So I had to wait. I didn't even know what took so long, but I didn't get my residency until I was 17. So in the middle of me getting arrested is when I was in the middle of getting my residency.
So put a little monkey wrench in that. Yeah.
I thought I was going to get deported, and I was like shitting a brick because
you weren't even like, it wasn't like you were getting deported back from somewhere you came like a year ago.
Yeah. No.
Like you're like, I'm like, you really weren't even ever there.
Yeah. And I was like, I never really got to leave there. And like, that was like the first time when I got my residency right after that is the first time I went to Venezuela other than being born there.
And what year was that?
That was probably 2001, I think. Okay.
So shit was, how was stuff there at that time? Because I know now the country's in like a,
it's fucked up. It's like,
I know that it's fucked up.
It's at that time it was the beginning of it starting to go down.
Was that, what's his name, Maduro?
No, Maduro was the next president that really fucked shit up. But
okay, so it was this is before him.
Before that. This is when Chavez became president. And the funny part is, like, when Chavez became president, it didn't seem like a bad thing for everybody at first.
Of course.
Everybody was just like, he was doing stuff for like, even I guess in his sense, he was mismanaging the country, but he was trying to do good for.
But he was doing it under the guise of socialism.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sounds kind of fucking familiar right now. I mean, honestly, it sounds crazy, but I think that sometimes people like you, from countries like Venezuela and stuff like that, are Cubans.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of them in Miami and
Florida. No, it's all there.
And they're like out there like phoning, hey guys, this is familiar, and I think that's sometimes why it's so deceptive is because people don't realize that they do this under the guise of good,
Yeah. No.
And it seems good. It really does.
It's because it always starts off good. It always starts off like, oh, we're going to help out the extreme poor people and stuff like that. And at that time, Venezuela had a lot of money from oil.
Of
like
course,
that's when the market like went up,
and they were at like full. I was doing a little research on it, and they were at like full production probably around that time, right?
Yeah,
because they hit like an apex at some point.
I think it was like $190 per barrel gallon or something like that. Because when I went at that time, like gas was so cheap in Venezuela. I was like, I was paying 15 cents a gallon when I went to go visit my family and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like kind of like the beginning and end because when Maduro came in, it was getting worse and worse. And Maduro wasn't really like, he didn't grow up there. He was like a fucking bus driver.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got trained in Cuba and all that. And he came in and he wasn't like elected.
So he was Cuban.
Yeah, no, he's Venezuelan, but he got trained like a lot of like social, like they go
like
there.
All these like tactics or whatever.
And they all like go like study in the same place. Like it was funny because like when I was studying engineering at Broward Community College, one of my math teachers from Cal 2, he was Cuban, but he trained in Russia and learned his school and like all his math in Russian and shit like that.
Yeah.
So
super
like,
interesting, man.
No, it's pretty crazy to see like the stuff that they learn and stuff over there and just different ways how they go about it.
Do me a favor, just angle your mic towards you. Yeah.
There
I noticed. Yeah, it gets like it picks up more quality. But yeah, I was like, interested in asking you some questions about like the current state of Venezuela. I don't know. Do you keep up with it much? Or?
I haven't in a while because for a minute I was very kind of interested in it and seeing where he's going, but it kind of had that like standstill where they were almost like they had two presidents at one time, I guess.
Right.
But it's crazy because like one of the main figures that got arrested and like detained in Chavez there, his name is Leopold Lopez. Mm-hmm. He grew up with one of my cousins in Venezuela.
Wow.
They were when they were really young, they were friends and shit like that. But it's just crazy.
And who is he now? You said he's like a right-hand man of Chavez?
No. He was the opposition. He was the one that they were going to go in as be like the leader for the opposition to kind of go and overtake that. And they kind of just like unjustly arrested him for his like views and shit like that and saying he's like starting up like a whole bunch of shit. But I don't know if I haven't looked at it in a while, but last time I checked, he's been in jail for like the longest and shit like that.
Yeah. So he was like essentially a good guy.
Yeah. No, he was in there and like he was just trying to like change out because like for me growing up, Venezuela is like one of the prettiest countries in South America.
It's like a story. It was like a very prosperous place with all the oil, right?
Well, even before that, because they had like there's always going to be corruption. There was always corruption on there. Just I guess the level of corruption how it is, but
yeah.
Like for the longest, like I didn't know growing up in South Florida, I didn't know any Venezuelans. I was like one of the only few Venezuelans that were living here, and it wasn't really till after '97 when Chavez started, when Venezuelans started coming all down in South Florida. Mm-hmm. Like if you go to like Weston or Doral, it's mainly comprised of Venezuelans there.
Well, actually, a fun, interesting fact, my first tattoo I ever got done was on my chest. I got it done in the country Curacao,
yeah.
Which is real close to Venezuela. And it was by a Venezuelan
artist.
Yeah. But he just came there recently at that time. Yeah. And this was probably like 2011, 12, 13 maybe.
Yeah.
I think maybe 2011, but that might have been like a time when people were kind of fleeing in a sense.
Yeah.
Would you say maybe?
Because it was like kind of the start, like where they were trying to like, I guess they were starting all the marches, and that's when like the oil industry kind of went down because they had a big strike where all like the workers from like because everything was private, or not private. It was essentially they had other companies from other countries coming in there and working in there, and then essentially he took over and said, "Down, this is like state owned, state run, and stuff like that." And then they were essentially just doing like a protest where they were like sitting out and like doing a strike.
Yep.
And essentially he just fired everybody, got rid of them, and then brought a lot of like, I guess, unqualified people to kind of run things in there. Okay. And from what I remember, I don't know how true this is, but I remember someone telling me that they had an oil refinery in Venezuela that kind of had an explosion because it was mismanaged wrong, and that was the only place in Venezuela where they can like take petroleum and refine it into gasoline. So then after that, everything gets sent to the United States and then comes back anyways over that way.
Right. So U.S. did also place sanctions, right, on the oil trade eventually?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I was like briefly skimming over it at one point, but I should sharpen up on it. It's interesting shit.
No, it's pretty crazy, and I always want to go back and visit my family because I still have family that lives out there. A lot of them left because, like, I was born in Venezuela. My mom was born in Chile, but she's nationalized Venezuelan, so she came over. It's funny because she left the dictator in Chile when it was Pinochet, when she was 16, went to Venezuela. That's where she met my dad, and that's where I was born. And then we all moved to the United States. But I still have a couple cousins that live in, I think, Caracas, and a couple of ones moved to England. A couple moved back here, United States, and some of them moved back to Chile.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, though, like, to like, sometimes I worry, like, obviously, I don't think we're quite there yet, but, like, how, here is, like, when you see somewhere like that, or Cuba, how like it's kind of like a beacon of freedom or safety or whatever you want to call it. But like you hate to see like it potentially slip into like that, because it's like almost like human nature, right? Like almost inevitably, the human condition kind of leads to this greed or whatever. And
it's always going to be like that. There's always going to be corruption with something on there, but I don't even know what to expect, like how things are going to turn out or anything like that, and just hopefully it doesn't get bad. But it's weird because like when I was a kid, it was always like thinking about Venezuela was always like one of the safest places to go to, and then like the opposite was like Colombia was like kind of the worst places to go to with all the narcos and over there and stuff like that. And now it's like the opposite. Like Colombia is like really safe to go to compared to going to like Venezuela.
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting how pliable things are and how quick they could kind of shift
on there. And it was like my dad used to tell me, being like when he grew up in Venezuela, like Venezuelans never left Venezuela. Like they all lived there and they loved it, and it was like they had like democracy and all that, and it was like one of the best economies in South America.
Well, you see that even in like the Middle East, right? Like where like the Taliban, when they lost control or whatever, like in Afghanistan, and like women had rights, and or I forget what year it was, but like in the olden, the 80s or 90s, I think it was, that like women were educated, and like and then all of a sudden you see like then they went into like a dark period, and then it's like now it's like fucked up again.
You got too much into religion over there.
But anyway, to bring it back, so then you said it was about 8 years ago that you got introduced to tattooing. You bought your kit. Did you buy a kit on like eBay or something?
Well, so what happens when I moved to Orlando for like there? This is like maybe like 5 years, 6 years where I hadn't draw anything at all, and like I stopped drawing after I got arrested. And my cousin was dating a tattoo artist.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I still had my black books from all my like graffiti and shit like that. And I still like wanted to draw here and there. And then he saw that and he's like, damn, these are really good. Maybe you should try picking up like tattooing. So he sold me a couple machines. I did my first tattoo on myself like right when I got it.
Yeah, on that left thigh.
The left thigh right there.
Where we all have them.
I had like 3 tattoos in the first week there. But after that, I was just like, oh man, I kind of got back into like art, because it wasn't like, at that time I wanted to be an engineer, and I actually had like,
well, you were going to school for?
I was going to school for engineering, but I wanted to be a pilot. Oh. I actually have a couple of flight hour lessons that I flew in. Actually, it's funny, surprising, in Venezuela, my uncle has a flight school in Venezuela. So I went to go visit him. He took me on a couple of flights over the mountains.
Is that where your interest, you think, stems from? Was because his influence, or you think that
it's more my dad? My dad has his private pilots.
Oh, he does. So this is like a family thing.
Kind of like that. It's not there because like my dad grew up. When he was like in college, he wanted to be a pilot, but he just didn't have the money for the license. And
but he was interested in it.
He's always interested in it. It's like one of his like foremost love. And then once we moved here and he started making more money, he started taking like lessons, and he got his private pilot's license, and he did all that. And I was kind of interested in there because he took me on a couple like discovery flights where it's just like touching.
So when you were a kid, he was flying you?
No, it wasn't until I was like in high school. So when I was in high school, he was like doing that. And then my uncles were all pilots in Venezuela, in Avianca.
Okay.
And so they came to the United States. Literally, it was like right after 9/11.
So your family's just like rooted in like air travel.
Yes, kind of. Some of them on there. More, it's like my dad did it more as a hobby, and he just loved to do it. But he ended up not taking anything farther past that. And then my uncle on there, he was like a major like pilot. Like he flew for Venezuela for like years and years and
like
years.
Working for like commercial airlines.
Yeah, so he worked for Avianca in there. So that's the funny part. When Avianca went out and like bankrupt in Venezuela, they all came to the United States. But this is like after 9/11.
What's the name of the company?
Avianca. Yeah, but they're not a company anymore, at least not that I know of.
Okay, so that was like a commercial airline.
Yeah, and he would fly out to like Europe and all that shit on there, and like he had enough money where he had like a couple flight schools over there in Venezuela and shit like that.
Okay, so now he started teaching people.
He started teaching people, but he had the school, but he moved to the United States right after that, and then it was funny because like it was like a whole group of them. Like I remember they all lived in my house like for a while. They were staying in my house when I was on there, and apparently one of them they all got like falsified like documents. They were all fake because they just trying to get out the country and make money and shit like that. And I think it was one guy who got it for all of them and didn't know it was like falsified. So this is after 9/11. So there was like a big thing where in the news where they all got deported. Well, some of them got deported. My uncle,
there was like a crackdown on probably things involving immigration, probably starting around that time. Right?
Yeah, and it was pretty bad. And I remember a couple of them got kicked out, and they had to go back to my uncle.
These are your uncles, you're saying?
Well, it's mainly one. It was my uncle, my godfather, and the rest were like his friends. But they were like family friends and shit like that. So, the whole issue was that it was on the news and everything like that, and it was like pretty serious. And eventually, one of them stayed, and they were working for American Eagle for a while.
What do you mean working for American Eagle? Like at the retail store? Or like
no, not American. Like the airlines.
Because they have that was an airline, American Eagle.
Yeah, well, it's like I think it's like a small airlines from American Airlines.
Okay.
And it was just like that was the name of the airlines. It was just American Eagle.
And they were flying the planes.
Yeah, they were just flying the planes here and there, and they were making money. They were like going happy, and then the whole shit with that happened. A couple of them got deported. A couple of them were stayed and tried to fight through the papers to get all that. Eventually, all worked out for them. But I just remember that when they was growing up. So that was like kind of like my interest into like aviation.
You grew up like it's. I mean, everyone around you was in the airplanes and flying airplanes and stuff. So you just grew up seeing this. And I
just really want to just be a pilot.
Are you still very interested in that stuff, or are you like how's that dwindled?
It dwindled down one because like my first love was art. And like the biggest thing was art for me. And I just, at that time, I didn't think I could make money off art. And it was just like one of those where I need to do something where I can make money and then eventually come back and do what I really love to.
Isn't that funny? Like, because somebody said that to me the other day when I was tattooing them, and they were like, it's kind of interesting to see like the evolution of tattoos and like how crazy they're getting and like, whatever have you. And I was like, I think it's just because people that are like were the good artists are finding out like, oh, wait a minute, like I can just do that and make money doing it. Whereas like I don't even know that like the technology is that much advanced. Like we like to say it is, but cool. Like my machine's wireless, but it still just goes up and down.
It's still the same concept about putting it there. To me, the interest at first was like I just thought tattoos were like more like script and shit like that. So I didn't really see the art behind it.
But that's because that's what it was.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone pushed those boundaries yet.
And it wasn't until, to be honest, it wasn't until I saw like Ink Master and Miami Ink and all that where I saw like, all right, maybe I can do some. Because like to me, like my art, I always loved doing portraits, replicating things like that. Even when I drew, that's the stuff I like to. Even with graph and stuff like that, I would make things like 3-dimensional and do like 3D graffiti and shit like that. So once I saw that you can kind of do that into tattooing, it kind of got me sparked my interest into it.
Well, that's like Sean Foy's whole thing. Like he's come here a few times and I went to his shop, and he'll just put on graffiti videos the whole time, and I love looking at graffiti. I love it like it, but I see like the color schemes and like the drop shadows and like just all like the little tricks and texture, all that stuff. it's amazing how much can be learned from just watching.
Oh no,
amazing
100%
graffiti. I think it's the color palettes for me are like off the chain.
That's the biggest thing for me, like on there. And even with your tattoos, they kind of remind me like that, like color bombing and bad graph and like that and stuff like that.
And Sean always puts that on, and like even I was like, wow, I never thought to like blend those two colors or whatever.
Or putting in there on like how they used to mix like paint and shit.
Yeah,
they get like 2 caps and they'll have like a straw in there, and will they have one in a hot tub or like a warm water, another one in cold water, so like the ink gets mixed all in one and it mix the inks together.
Yeah, it's like insane. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's like cool how much like influence can be rooted from graffiti culture. I mean, even if you think of like a lot of like modern street art, like, or not like street art, but like the street like style, like Basquiat, you know, like these kinds of guys, like we're just all rooted in graffiti, you know.
No, it's just like, I mean, I guess like the whole New York vibe. Like when I was younger, I used to watch, like my favorite video was like Cope 2 video.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just him just bombing and then doing all these like pieces.
We saw one of his pieces in when we were in Germany on the Berlin Wall, and it said Cope, and it had like a line through it, like someone crossed them out.
Shit.
No, so I took a picture in front of it with my wife, and then I posted it and tagged him, and then Cope DM'd me because he saw the tag, and he was like, yeah, even haters crossing me out in Germany. You know? It was just like funny. But it's cool, yeah. No, I saw that video. Yeah, it's awesome. I think me and Sean had it on here last time he was here. You know.
Oh, that's like the iconic graph video. If you like somewhere in the late '90s or anything like that, you would definitely seen that one.
It's funny too, because with graffiti, I'm like not only interested, like I love the art aspect of it, but I also love like the gritty. I like shit that's just in crazy spots. Like I love like bridge spots and like, or when the top is just like just, you know, like
kind of loosed off and
everything. Yeah, like I love all that stuff, but I like that stuff in tattoos sometimes too, because like, you know, I'm just as guilty of like chasing perfection, but sometimes I'll see like a tattoo with a background, it's just like a couple needle marks, and you're like it feels human, like
human. And that's the biggest thing with like tattooing. Like I feel like everybody's styles like kind of did take on their flaws, and that kind of like emanates like what their like stuff is. Yeah. So like when I see stuff like that, it's like, all right, it doesn't have it. Sometimes when things are like too perfect, it's just like, I don't know.
Sometimes I feel like it has a lot to do with like how you actually feel while you're doing it. Like, I don't know, sometimes I'll look at someone's thing and it's like there's a dark side of like a portrait or something like that, and I'll be looking at like how to do it, and I'll be like getting all crazy with some of these like nuanced like tiny little tones, and I'll just see someone else do it and it just made it all black.
Yeah, they put it on there or put like a little bit like second tone in there and kind of like light loosen it up,
and that's it. And I'm like, man, it's so good, but it was like actually less. It almost took like courage
to like, I'm just gonna put this there and like let it be.
To me it's harder.
Oh no, it is. But I've been trying to like with like what I've been doing lately, because I've been doing a lot of like realism.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I saw your work take a jump at some point.
Oh no, it was like I guess it was something I try to like not just do too much realism, because a lot of time I would just do wall to wall where realism where it's just like all this amount of detail on the whole.
Now you're doing Jordi realism.
Yeah, now it's like I've been trying to do, because like I grew up like essentially in the street shop, so I always wanted to do like different styles and be proficient in it, but I wanted to take like something from each style and kind of make into one thing where it's like if I can do like a half face or something that's like heavy like detail, and then have maybe line work in it, and then have like something loose in the background where it's like it cuts down half the time, and then I don't have to like focus like 10 hours on just all this like minute detail, and then sometimes it's like harder to read.
I'm with that.
And,
like, no, I've struggled with the same thing, because and I get pigeonholed sometimes. People are like, oh, I want you to do like, you know, my animal and like space, and it's like cool. It's like fur, stars, space, and it's like I think it was cool and served me well at one point. But sometimes it's like it's so much texture. Yeah, like I almost want to do half your dog like solid and have something exploding behind it, and it like cut the time in half. But not only that, it's like when I'm 30 feet away, it's like ba-boom.
You can see it. Like
it's too much texture everywhere. It gives me like anxieties.
And sometimes I like to have it where it's like I'll have the main focus will be like on smaller grouping needles, because I use probably like 15 to 30 needles like each tattoo. I'm using like all different sides.
I used to be like that, but I've definitely reduced it.
I try to keep it on there, but I just like to have like the needles available, so like if I need to do certain things, I'm not trying to force a different needle when it has like a different job.
But at the end of the day, I think that a needle in the grand scheme of this cool tattoo you're doing, it's pretty cheap, right?
Yeah.
And I always say that to people, like, if you need 10 needles, then fucking use it. Would it cost you another $3 or something?
And you're probably making like 15 to $2,000 for each tattoo.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, open it.
Yeah, just go in there, and I'd rather, and to be honest, it'll save time instead of trying to hit that corner with that mag. You can just hit it with a round shader and like.
But I do also feel like sometimes if you do want to hit that corner with the mag, then own it and do that, and that might create your style too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's like a right or wrong, because I've definitely went through like the waves. Like I used to be like that. I would use like 20 needles. Like now I'm at the point now where I just need like a 3-liner, like a 7-round shader, a 7 mag, and like a big mag, and like I'm good 4. But that's, I don't know. I just got my shit to that point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But then other times I'll have like 20 needles.
And talking about that, I feel like every other week I feel like something different, and I constantly change how I tattoo to feel. I guess I don't know. For me, if I just keep on doing the same thing, I feel like it feels weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like life, you know. I mean, that's like part of my fear of like owning my own. That's why I'm like signing year leases, because, you know, at some point I'm bored of even just driving the same route to work.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Like, and I used to, you know, me more than anyone, I mean, I used to work at a new fucking tattoo shop like every 3 months, and it was never because I had any beef with anyone. It's just, so I'm like that in all aspects of my life, you know. It's just like, every week it's a new maybe even a new opinion, a new fucking perspective.
No, I agree on that, because like I feel like if I'm doing something the same, I just get tired of it. And then I get an autopilot, and then it's not like I feel like I'm putting as much effort in.
Yeah.
That's why I do so many conventions. Like I'm constantly traveling.
You're like a big time convention
guy. I
guy.
do probably maybe like 25 to 30.
Yeah, that's so many conventions.
And even this year I try to do only once a month. And
I've done it. Don't get me wrong. Right. I used to see you at all of them. I don't think I knew you quite well at the time. Actually, it's funny. I think the first time that I knew of you, but when you were offering me, I think you made coffee.
Yeah, Cuban colada.
Yeah, you make and you like won my heart over. Like, I was at a convention, I was so tired, and you came over with like, I don't know, was it like a French press or something?
Well, no, it's a cafetera, so it's like one of the ones like a percolator where you put on the stove. But it's electric.
Did you bring a burner?
Yeah, well, I didn't bring a burner. It has electric base on it where you can get on there where you can.
It's like a device that's all in one.
So it's like the same one where you put on the grill or on the.
But it has its own heating.
Little heating thing, and then I take that everywhere I go. And the main thing is, all I really need is coffee, water, and sugar. That's
you have all that.
Yeah, and then most of the times I'll bring the coffee and water, and most of the places I can go to any Walmart, they have Bustelo. Yeah. So they have the Cuban coffee in there. But the biggest secret to like why it tastes so good is mixing the sugar with a little bit of coffee, the most concentrated part of the coffee when it first comes out, mixing it beforehand before you mix it all together. So
you're like concentrating the sugar in a concentrated amount of coffee, and then you're letting the rest of it brew, and then it like mixes in while it goes. Yeah, because I'm gonna sit here and tell you that was like one of the best. And I don't know if it was just like your love for making the coffee or the circumstances in which I drank the coffee. It was probably a mix of everything.
A little bit mix of everything.
But I like vividly remember drinking this cup of coffee, and like I swear to God, I was like, yeah, this guy's my homie. Like, you know? Like, seriously,
it is crazy part, because like growing up in Miami, it's like in every single fucking corner. Like the gas stations like have normal, it. But you go get a piece of colada, like a little cup. It's literally like $1.50 to get the whole little thing made, and you go every corner. But the funny part, I learned how to make that shit on Ink Master.
Why? Because they didn't have coffee there?
They didn't have coffee, but it was the first tattoo I did on there. I did like a Florida with a little Cuban coffee cup on there. And Oliver didn't know what it was, but fucking Nunez did. And he's like, oh, that's Cuban coffee.
Yeah, because is he from Miami?
Yeah, he's originally from Miami on there. So he grew up on there, and he's Cuban too. So he knows all about it.
Right away. Yeah,
now, my teammate, Jason Elliott, he grew up in South Florida before he moved to Texas. Okay. So he knew about it. So when he saw me tattoo, that first thing he did came up to me, do you know how to make it? And I lied. I said, yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. And so he was telling me that when he was on the previous season, they had a Cuban coffee maker on there, and he was saying he's going to ask and see if they can have it. They can find it. They didn't have it anymore. So they went and got me one. So I just Google online how to make it. Yeah. Like, because like you don't really make it in South Florida. You just go somewhere.
You just go get it. It's everywhere.
Have it. Yeah. But so I Googled how to make it on there, and I just started making it every morning on there at the show when we were on there. And then that started after that. Was like I started bringing it to conventions and started making it at conventions.
So that like your thing now? You always have that? Like if you're at a convention, you have that with you?
Yeah, most of the time. Like lately, I've been kind of slacking off, and I've been kind of like just not bringing it, or like I'll forget a part or something like that. But for like a good like 2 years after like fucking Ink Master, like every convention I had it. And to be honest, I'll go make sure I give it to like a lot of like the show promoters and shit like that. So when I do have, because I still get like a half booth free from for Ink Master at the Villain Art Show, they were giving me a full booth every time, and then every time I'll make sure they had a little bit of coffee. And now, because essentially when I make it for myself, you make a whole bunch, but you only need a little shot of it. So to me, it's like if I make a whole coffee, good, I just give it to everybody, because if you drink more than one shot, you're gonna have like heart palpitations.
Yeah, it's like you might as well just go fucking rip a rail of cocaine at that point, because you gave me that shit and it was like, blah.
Yo, it wakes you up and it's like, I've been times where like, I took too much. Like,
I might have even done a couple push-ups after that. You know what I mean? Like, I was about to run a 5K around the convention. You know
get all around there.
This shit was good. Yeah, perked me right up. It was cool. Yeah, it's funny. And when we scheduled you to come here, I was like, I gotta, talk to him about that cup of coffee. And I'm glad there's like a cool story about it.
Oh no, it
was like, because I knew it wasn't just like a fucking shit cup of coffee. Like, it was like good. It was like robust. It had a little sweetness and
sweet. It's essentially just sugar, water, and like. It's coffee.
Yeah, so in my mind, I always look at you as like the coffee man.
The coffee. It's funny because like that's a Cuban coffee. I'm Venezuelan, so it's like I grew up in South Florida.
Yeah, but you were around cultured.
Yeah,
it's like my mom is not technically Italian, but she grew up in northern New Jersey, and she fucking makes monogot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like she might as well be. It's like. I think a lot like you take on the culture like
well, you're surrounded by
like a sponge. You just like, but that's cool. So you grew up in South Florida. So,
yeah.
So at the time, because in my opinion, when I was a kid, I think one of the first interests I've ever had in tattooing was just Ink Master. I'm not Ink Master. What was it?
Miami Ink.
Miami Ink. And I still respect that show, because that show was like real.
Yeah.
Like that was like they were just people in a shop
and
they were just everything. And it was the actual real things that happened in like a walk-in studio. And I just remember like Ami James like arguing like he didn't have a drawing and the guy was coming in 20 minutes and and just someone's late and it was like real shop shit. So for me as a kid, as someone who was like innately interested in art, I was drawn to that. And I used to watch it then. I watch it, at night before I had to go to bed, before I had to wake up for school. And it was just like super cool. But how was it for you? Like, were you aware of that show at that time living in Florida?
I did.
So you probably like knew the shop location and everything.
Yeah, it's on South Beach.
Yeah, I've seen it before.
And,
yeah.
And it's funny because like the first time, this was before I was like, even tattooing and shit like that. And it was like, my uncle had a construction company, so I was helping him do some construction when I was like in high school over there. And then I seen the shop, but it was like closed. It wasn't like open or anything.
It was actually called 305 Ink, correct?
Yeah. And it was on there, and I was just like,
because it was there before the show, I would imagine.
No, it was probably I think they just rented out the spot or anything like that, and then they were using that for a minute. But it was pretty crazy seeing that on there all the time, like just seeing you can do other shit and seeing what, because it was crazy like. Nowadays, everybody has like iPads and they can do the designs on there, but they were sitting there drawing everything on there. They show like the whole working behind the shop. And
even when I started tattooing, though, like I was using a Wacom tablet. It wasn't quite an iPad at the time, but I was using a MacBook and a Wacom.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I knew about the Wacom is because my wife is a professional photo retoucher, so she does like digital editing of photos for models. She works for like Free People and Urban Outfitters and all those. So like all the models you see, she like perfects them. But she was using a pen and a Wacom tablet on a computer when I met her in like 2012 or 13 or something, and I remember going like, wow, I can implement this. And she was also like a Photoshop like master. So I always fucked with Photoshop because I'm a computer nerd. But I now I'm like with a chick who
has all the knowledge already,
like literal understanding of Photoshop. So I had like a resource like literally in the same room that I could be like, hey honey, how do I fucking
do this or do that?
Of course I would get like yelled at for doing it wrong or not using the correct shortcut or whatever, because she's like you
be more efficient with it.
She's like a professional with it. So it's like she's like, oh, why are you hitting like file, whatever, like hit control, so she would always yell at me. But she was using a Wacom tab, but she used to yell at me for using a mouse. So like and it's funny because I was like an apprentice or young tattoo artist at the time, and I would go into the shop using that shit. I remember like the owner coming in,
it's like, what's this?
And he's like, what's this? Not saying like don't use it, but it was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, and it's just funny that like how quick that like took off. Now it's like I see kids, just
put something together like 5 seconds.
Yeah, and I do it too, but it's kind of cool to have like the basic understanding in like an archaic way. Because I'm sure when you started tattooing 8 years ago, technology was like around.
Yeah, no, we didn't really start using iPads to maybe like 3-4 years after.
But this is what I'm saying. So like you remember like layering tracing paper. Yeah. I used to have like a little box with pencils in it and shit. And
I still have all that stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And to be honest, like I prefer drawing on like paper because I feel the texture.
It's
and
cool.
It makes it easier to like draw stuff. Sometimes on the iPad, it's literally just too like loose, slick, and I'm just kind of like when I'm trying to do one line, it's just like one little second is like it's like all crooked and shit.
You know, I actually like sketch on Photoshop in a weird way, and like a lot of times I'll make my designs just right in front of my clients. I've been kind of going that direction lately because I do so much other shit outside of tattooing that like. For me to prepare like long in advance, it's almost like I can't do it anymore.
You can't. I literally take. I do this. I study what I'm gonna do. Get all my references the night before, and then in the morning, I usually wake up like at 7 in the morning, and I'm at the shop like at 8. My appointment's not until 12, so I'll take 2 hours where I'm just sitting there and putting it together. And if I have enough time, I'll put 2 different designs and see what they like, and kind of give them an option on there, and then I usually be able to swap it out pretty quick.
I'll sketch like. When I say sketch, like I'll drag a picture here, magic wand that out, mask this out, layer that over it a little bit, put a color layer and like a thing, and I'll do it in front of them sometimes in like 3 minutes, and like that alone is like, not to feel myself, but like sometimes they're even like, wow, like, you whip through that shit, it's like, and I'm like, it's not how it's going to look as a tattoo.
No.
Then I'll show them my like other designs that I tattooed on someone that's really like one of my better tattoos and be like, this was the design. It doesn't even, you see there's all like these, fucking things, these stars weren't in the design or there's like an edge here. I'm like, I just need something.
It's like, I'm the same way because I like just like a frame. I use it for a frame and I tell them like, it's not going to be exactly like it because I'm going to go what I feel is right at the time. Because it's going to
run through your filter.
Yeah. And it's just like, this is just like me saying, knowing where the edges are, knowing the shapes, like the foundation, and then everything else I'm gonna go as like, not even the color. The colors I might even change or blend it out, like how I feel at the moment and shit.
Yeah, and I think there's, and I think nowadays it's probably like better. Like I think more people are like coming to you because they do trust you. There's so many options. It's not like. Because when I first started, it was like a lot of times just I'm convincing somebody.
Oh, you just need to get this. I got this. I can do it. And shit
yeah, it's like I feel like nowadays, like if you walk into my door, like, do I need to fucking convince you? Like it's kind of like weird almost.
Yeah,
like
I'm either you're gonna get it or you're not.
Yeah. Like well, you either like if you don't trust me, we should like back up a step or two. Like you know what I mean?
And
like,
then why are you coming here? Like
why are you here? Like
and the funny part, people hit me up and they're like, I love all your work and they'll like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then like, yo, can you do the script? I'm like. I'm literally you don't want to pay for like a half day just for a script. Like I can get someone that can do it. But now if you want something I can do this.
Yeah,
like,
or something I just want to do.
Yeah, like I've been watching a lot of anime, so I do a lot of anime too now.
Is that right?
Yeah. I love doing it. And
I know nothing. Dude, I literally know. I don't think there's something I know less about than anime, and I'm not hating on it. I just don't know anything.
No, it's crazy.
I know it's popular as fuck now.
Oh no, it's pretty big because it's almost geared for more adults than kids.
Is that right?
Yeah, because like a lot of them, like the other ones, even the old ones, they're pretty like gruesome and shit like that. They like Demon Slayer where they're like killing like demons and shit, and then like Naruto's like they're like kid ninjas. They're killing each other.
I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that's like a pretty profound series, but that's not like quite really an anime, right?
I mean, it's still I consider that an anime. That's
yeah.
Like when it's crazy because like when I first started drawing that. The first 2 things I was drawing was like anime, and then like I used to draw like I was a big like Shamu like fan because I lived in Orlando for a little bit, so I would draw killer whales all the time, and that was the first thing. And then when I kind of like left that, all I wanted to do was portraits. But then when I started tattooing again, I had one of my friends who got me back into anime. Now I'm like fucking addicted to that.
It's funny because me and my wife were like at the mall not too long ago. I was like I just redid my whole wardrobe because I lost like 50 or 60 pounds. So I was like, you know what? We were Marie Kondoing my closet. We just threw everything away
and get everything in there.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Let's invest like some money into like feeling good and just fucking like. I was like literally going through my clothes like garbage. Like maybe I like unless I love it, it's garbage. You know,
that's what I need to do. I feel like I'm a hoarder with clothes. Like I just can't throw any away.
So that's what I was doing, and it's like it doesn't fit me, or it's like. Do you wear the shirt? No, I don't like the way the arms are on my arm. So my wife's like, why are you keeping it?
Yeah.
So we just threw it out. We went to the mall, and I don't go to the mall very often nowadays, but we're in the mall. So we're like, you know what? Let's be nostalgic and let's hit the old Spencer Hot Topic combo. You know what I mean?
I love those spots.
but we go in a Hot Topic and it's like, she's like, I guess we live under a rock or something, but me and her both knew nothing about anime. But she's like, Hot Topic has almost become like an anime store,
it's so big. It is
like
funny.
I was looking for a poster of like fucking Jonathan Davis from Korn in a kilt, or like Corey Taylor.
I think you gotta go to the back for that.
Yeah, you gotta go to the back. You find like an outdated Incubus T-shirt or something back there, and, but it's funny. It's like the anime kind of like took over the forefront of like that like gothic-y kind of scene.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, because when I was a kid, like the gothic kids were like the outcasts, but now they almost seem like the fucking
the kids and the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
everybody wearing those Jinkos back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the Jinkos. We used to inline skate and wear Jinkos and shit, and like skateboard. Those fucking.
That sure reminds me of high school.
Yeah. How old are you?
38.
38. Okay, so you're my wife's. Well, my wife's about to be 39, but yeah, same age. Were you born 84?
85.
85. Okay, so yeah. So I'm 89, so I'm 34. But yeah, so my brother is around a little older than you. Yeah. So he was always like with the Jinkos, and he had Paco, and all these, like all those fucking brands and shit. Like,
yeah, I remember all those.
I used to be a little kid. I would put them on like so they were like really big. And I'd go out and I had like inline skates. There was a brand Rossies or K2s and shit. You remember that shit?
I remember those.
Yeah, we used to have all that shit and like the fucking BMX bikes with the gyro necks and fucking.
Oh, the little fucking pegs on there.
Yeah. We used to do all that fucking wild shit, man. It's so cool. Like while listening to Wu-Tang Clan, Triumph. Remember that double CD? I
do. I remember. I think I was in middle school when that shit came out.
Yeah. So I was a little younger than you. So, but he had it and we put it on. And there's like I still want to go to my mother's house when I'm back in Jersey. I say it every time, but I want to dig up these home videos. There's a video of me like 7 years old or something, just with no shirt on in my kitchen, going Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing fuck with. Like, but I'm going Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing up with Wu-Tang.
You stop right there.
No, and then I say it, and then you hear my mom in the background like Bobby or something.
It's funny. It's funny because like when I grew up, like all my cousins are about maybe like 5-6 years older than me. And when they came to the United States from Venezuela, they all listened to like rock and all that. And that's what my parents listened to, like classic
that's like
rock.
big in like South America.
Yeah,
right?
no,
like
it's pretty big
like that
on there.
New metal rock and shit. Like.
Yeah, that shit goes ham over there. But it was funny because that's all I listened to when I was growing up as a kid. And then I remember I watched my first like hip hop video, and was Method Man and Mary J. Blige, like that one song they did together. It's
trying to think of the name.
Forgot the name of it, but it's like that was the first video. That's what kind of got me into rap, and then I started listening to like fucking Tupac and all that, and then like Wu-Tang, older Wu-Tang, and then a little bit for like some underground like Jedi Mind Tricks.
I have the complete opposite story because my brother liked the rap because he was at that age when that was like cool, and I think me being a little bit of a rebel, like you do what your older brother thinks is cool when you're like, you're saying you have like older cousins, right? So like it's like, whatever's cool. And then I found my own identity. Like it was when Korn first was on TRL.
Oh, I remember watching that.
Yeah, and like fucking like that video Freak on a Leash with the bullet.
Yes.
And like all that stuff. And it was just like, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And then like I just always wanted to have like long hair and play like a 7-string guitar and fucking, and I just always loved metal and like screaming.
And get in there.
And it just got heavier as I got older. And now I'm like, now I listen to like fucking chill step. But it's like,
now I'm all over it. Like I catch myself listening to some indie music and shit. Like random, like some Spanish, like slow songs. I even listen to like Spanish guitar. Like the only thing I really don't listen to is really country. But that I worked at a Bass Pro for like 7 years.
Oh wow, did you?
Yeah, like because
that's funny because like when you used to have the beard, you gave me like Bass Pro
vibes. Yeah, it's funny because like when I was working in Bass Pro, before I worked in the restaurant in Islamorada Fish Company, the one in Dania Beach, which it was the first one. And I was like a corporate server trainer, so I would go travel and like help open up restaurants, train staff and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I moved to Orlando that I actually started working in the Bass Pro because they didn't have a restaurant there. Now I went up there for school, so I worked customer service for like maybe 2 years in the Bass Pro. But back then I had like a short beard, I was clean cut, like I had.
You didn't have the Reaper thing around.
Yeah, not like like no one knew about. I didn't even get tattooed till I was like 18, and then that was the first one, and it wasn't until like. After I was in college, I started getting like tattoos, and I got really interested into it. Like, but it was a change, but it was pretty crazy back then.
That's funny. Yeah, when I first met you, like, because I thought when you had the big beard, you were from Florida, and I thought you were hanging out in like the bayou somewhere, like fucking collecting crawfish or something.
No, I wish. I mean, I actually like doing outdoor. I used to go fishing a lot, but Like when I lived in South Florida, it was like the opposite.
I guess what I'm saying is like almost like I like to consider myself somewhat empathetic. I think I was just absorbing those Bass Pro vibes. You know what I'm saying? I think they were still like in you.
Oh no, it was always gonna be in me and shit. Like fucking, that was like my first major job, and like I worked for 7 years for them. That was like the longest, other than tattooing. Tattooing was like the second longest job I had so far.
So at Bass Pro Shops, from what I understand, bought out Cabela's, right?
Yeah,
because we have one right by where I live now, and we didn't have them like where I was from. So then sometimes on my day off, I'm just like hanging out in Cabela's. Like there's just like, no,
they have everything over there.
I think this is one of the bigger ones here.
Yeah,
by my house over there, and like I'll just go in there and like walk down. It's like fucking fishing poles, outdoor gear. I'm like, wow, they got a fucking shoe section.
Shit, you got food, clothes. You can go if you want to go like golfing and shit. They have golfing clothes and shit.
Yeah, and then I go over to the gun section, and I'm like, oh, whoa, there's so many in one spot. Like it's so cool. Yeah, it's like cool just being here and like this. I guess I just was deprived of that being in New Jersey. There's not really. You have to go down to Pennsylvania to get those.
Luckily, I mean, grow up in South Florida, it's like so diverse and like I guess because you have a lot of rednecks out there, and then, but they're like a little bit different. They're like a lot more Hispanic. A lot of Hispanic rednecks in South Florida and shit like that. But
I think I've seen that around here too. There's like Mexican rednecks a little bit.
Like there you get a lot of like more like Puerto Ricans, like Cuban, a lot of Cuban rednecks.
So my wife is Puerto Rican, and it's funny because my neighbor here is Puerto Rican here in Texas. Yeah. And when we first moved into the house, I saw his car next to me, and he had the Puerto Rican flag in the in his car, on the visor, you know. And I was like, yo, this guy's from New York or something, you know, or he's not from it. And I talked to him, and he said, oh, I'm originally from New York. And I'm like, of course you are. Like, but it's because the East Coast is like, there's more Puerto Ricans, more Cubans, like you said, more than here in Texas. You know, a lot of like, Mexicans here and like that. When it comes to like Hispanic type cultures and stuff like that. But, in the East Coast, it's like more diverse in that way.
And it's funny because like I'm in a Latino-based multicultural fraternity, like when I was in college on there. So like if you look at the regions based on where like all the members are, like Florida, East Coast, they're like multicultural. You have like a lot of Hispanics from South America, a lot of Indians, a lot of I'll probably say people of color. It's like different. When the farther you go to like the West Coast, it's all Mexican.
Yeah. And I think it's probably just geography.
Oh, no, 100%. Because like a lot of like Venezuelans and South Americans, they all go to Florida. Florida's the first spot, or New York.
Yeah, like those and they probably still come to Florida and then just go to New York, right?
Yeah,
like they literally come in, they immigrate. That's like the first spot you hit almost. Right?
And it's like essentially the farther south you go in Florida, the more Hispanic it is. Like when you get down to Miami, deep South Miami, it's literally. You'll see signs in Spanish, and then you can go into like any like store or anything like that. If you don't speak a little bit Spanish, they're by no entiendo, or they don't speak English. That.
It's really interesting. You're right, but then it's like obviously you could see because Mexico, where it physically connects to the U.S.,
they come in through that way,
and then it like kind of filled the West and everything like that. And it's same thing where I'm from in New Jersey. It's like dominantly Italian, Polish, Irish, and that was because the influx of them coming from Europe through Ellis Island, through New York, and then they would work in New York, right, and kind of get their bearings in America, and then they would like move out to the suburbs, like where I'm from, and make fucking mozzarella and bajout, fucking.
I'm so glad for diversity, for all the different types of foods you eat.
But it's cool when you retrace the steps of diversity, like how there's like literally a flow of immigration, right?
Oh yeah. Now it's crazy, even with like my background. Like I was born in Venezuela, my dad was born in Venezuela, my mom's Chilean, her grandparents or great grandparents are Scottish and Irish, and then from my dad's side, they're actually from Barcelona. They're Catalans. Like my dad was the first one in our family born in Venezuela, and I guess second or third. Or
so is Venezuelan was like a melting pot to a degree, then you would say?
Yeah, Venezuela is, because it's probably the most diverse, because they have a German colony in there, and they have an Italian colony in there, and a lot of like mix between like African descent that came to the United States and stuff like that, or Venezuela on there. So it's like very diverse in that sense. But my grandparents are like Catalan. Like my first and last name's in Catalan, which is like a mixture between French and Spanish. That's in like that Aragon region.
They were out there just like conquering fucking shit, because my wife is Puerto Rican and she did like the ancestry shit. And she's, her mom is like super light skinned, like porcelain white, right? And her dad was very dark. And, but when she did the ancestry, like 50% of it was like African descent. And
a
lot.
And
the other 50% of it was like Spain and Portuguese. And I'm like, well, I wonder which parent was which, you know? It's like, and people were just like fucking like, it's almost like the earth is just like
essentially a melting pot.
It's a ball of clay and people we're fucking sailing around.
Yeah,
and just
it all started off and they start people going to different areas and different regions and stuff. I was looking back even on mine or my sister's one, and it was like 78% was like Spanish and like Portuguese area and stuff like that. But before that, there was some Asian in there, and African, and it was like a mix between everything. And then actually, I found out that I'm semi-related to like Salvador Dali. Like in the sense because
more about this.
So Salvador Dali is from Catalonia and from Barcelona. My
I know I was at the museum when I went there.
So my first and last name is our Catalan last name, like San Jordi, which is the Saint Patron of Catalonia, which is Saint George and the Dragon.
And that is your last name.
That's my first name, and my last name is Pla, P-L-A, but that's actually someone from Catalonia. It describes a region in Catalonia where it's the plateaus, which is the flat land. So it's like
that shortened at some point, you think, to a degree, or that's just actually
how it is on there because it's like if you look Jordi Pla and you go there, it's really fucking it's like John Smith out here over there in Spain.
That right? Okay.
Yeah. So my dad's family, it was Barcelona. They actually were like from like royalty and they had like money and shit like that. Even though my grandfather died when my dad was a kid, so he didn't get none of it. he kind of like shit out of luck.
I thought maybe you were gonna tell me that's how you got those gold teeth.
Oh, I wish. These are all. I mean, they're not fake, but they're only caps.
Yeah.
But so like I was looking at my dad's second last name because like in a lot of like Spanish, you add the first and last from mom and your father and shit like that. So my dad's full name is Jordi Pla Domènech. There's a famous artist from Spain that's the same exact name, Jordi Pla Domènech, and that Domènech is like a very like strong name in Barcelona, but it's spelled Domench on there. And Salvador Dali's mom's last name is Domènech. And my grandmother's last name is Domènech. And my dad used to joke around, tell me, we're somewhat related to him, like not like second cousins or anything like that, but like in the sense someone was like part of that family.
It's kind of just interesting because like I was just thinking that someone in your bloodline just fucked someone in Salvador Dali's bloodline.
And they're like in their mix. It's like shit.
Salvador was out there painting one night and he got lonely and he just went and busted a nut real quick and
got in there, and now we're part of the family.
Yeah. Just like that.
I'm gonna come in there like, yo, you see my last name or my second last name? Let me in.
You're going to like show up to the Salvador Dali Museum and there's going to be like a huge line going around the block and you're just going to shimmy up to the front and be like, bro, I'm family, bro.
I'm family. You don't know? You don't see the Domènech in there? Like, let me in.
Yeah, let me in, bro. He's going to just like open the ropes and be like, yeah, no doubt. You know?
Nah, that'd be crazy. It's funny because I always loved all his paintings growing up and my dad would always talk about it. But my dad was talking about when he found out he had the same name as like another famous artist in Barcelona and shit like that. And he said he was in school and like looking through some art books and shit like that. And it's like his name came up and he saw, it's like, that's me. That's
crazy. That's interesting. So can you like, have you guys ever connected the dots to like who exactly, like where in your family tree, like rubbed shoulders, or I should say
I've never looked
genitals with Salvador Dali?
I never looked at it, like try to figure out what it was. Cause we had to go through like ancestry.com. My sister did all that. She did all that. And I was like, that's how she found out.
That's like a real sister type of thing to do.
Yeah. She's like, oh, I'm going to find out all this. It's like, yeah, I always thought about it. I always wanted to know, but I just never took the initiative to like, I'm going to go look through all this on there and find out who's part of the family.
But like to make a long story short, to some degree, you have connections with Dali.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Well, at least it's cool to see that you've kind of been like nudged back towards your original family, tendencies of art.
Oh no, that was the biggest thing. Is like when we were kids, like I've always drawn. Like that was like something I would do for fun. That's why I never thought it was innate.
Like, because I know much like myself, like I would always draw. I would always doodle, like margins of my pages at school were doodles. But I didn't know that I was an artist until later. Do you feel like you have a similar type of situation, or did you always kind of know?
I felt like I always knew from when I was like when I first moved back to Miami from Orlando, when I was like in 2nd or 3rd grade, I would always want to draw. It was like always constantly I would draw Shamu or like with the whole shit.
You just always draw.
I always drew, and it was.
But like, how did you see yourself? Like, was your self image that of an artist, or was it like just something you did to pass the time? But your mind.
I felt like I was an artist because that was something that I love to do. Like I can literally spend like, it was easier when I was a kid than it is now.
Isn't that funny?
It's like then I would draw like 10-15 hours and like just sit there and like listen to some Tupac or something like that and just go in and draw. And like now it's like, it's almost sometimes like to sit down and draw for like 10 hours. It's like, it's kind of hard with.
Well, it's almost like as you go through life, you collect experiences, and as you collect experiences, it's almost like adding, like, you know, they refer to it as like the onion. Like you're creating like shells, defenses, stresses, anxieties, responsibilities. And it's like your true nature is actually at the beginning, like the inside of that at its core. And when you're a kid, it's easier to access that. I think that's a struggle for many artists or creatives. And that's why, like, you see bands create their first album and it's like their first album's like sometimes the best, or maybe the second one is like really good too, because they kind of refine that. But then it's like, then, you know, they kind of get worse. Yeah.
And they kind of go, I guess, more so try to figure out what people want.
Yeah. It's like you get wedged away from your true childlike nature that made you so, you know, compelled to do that in the first place, you know?
And I felt like even when I was like doing drawings like as a kid, it was just like, I didn't even have to think about it. Like I could just sit there and then I used to hate, if someone asked me to draw something for them, I would hate that. When I was a kid, I was like, you want me to do this? Like, nah, I'm doing this because this is something I like to do. This is like my like hobby. It's like I really love it. And like I can sit there and do it all day, and like I don't need anybody to be like, oh, you should do this and that. That's when I started. That's why I didn't think at first I would really make money off like doing art or anything like that. That's why I do an engine, because like to me it was for myself. It wasn't for anybody else. And then once somebody else wanted me to draw something for them, it was like I didn't have the same amount of interest. It wasn't as fun for me. But now it's like the opposite. Now it's like, all right, give me an idea, and then I'll go ham on it and do something like my own style on there.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting too, because I think with tattooing, you develop like a unique sense of callous towards creating stuff, because initially you want to just be so free, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I think at least for myself, when I started tattooing early on, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I still wanted to do what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that was more early in my career. I had a little like, I don't know, like a hot-headedness towards like, I want to do my own art.
Yeah.
And then the more I got into it, and I think you create like a new tendency, because you're like, you do understand someone else is connected to it and their input.
Yeah.
And then it's hard for me to perform at my max if they're not also on board, but I still want to maintain my desire to do what I want.
Yeah.
It's almost like this weird duality, but like I need you to kind of sign off on me to do what I want, but I want a little bit of direction so I could do what I want within the small confines that you potentially gave me. Because if not, like, I almost think I like not lost touch with what I want, but we got so, at least for me, I got so used to tattooing that like what I want is to make you happy, but also myself happy. It's like hard to explain.
No, I agree 100% on that, because like I feel like a lot of times what I really liked in art was never the finished product. It was always the process,
like the journey of it,
the journey, the process, and how people reacted to it.
Yeah,
because like to me, when I was a kid, it was like almost like it was like getting money.
It was like a little bit of a dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's like a dopamine is like, yo, here, fucking you took 10 hours to do this drawing, and like the reaction is like the price.
I mean, it's like making someone a fucking lasagna,
and they taste it,
and then like, you know, if I'm cooking, imagine like even if I cook for my wife and she eats it and I see, oh, this is good,
or if you see it just like where they're like,
yeah,
they don't say nothing, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But I guess that says something about your character in general, because you came to me in the convention and gave me this cup of coffee, and I remember when I was drinking it, you were amped. Like,
yeah. Oh no. It's like
you were excited to hand out that coffee.
Oh, because like I always like the reaction, because like it's just something.
That's probably an across the board thing.
Yeah. No. It's like anything I do, even like it's always about like because like the money's good, and like you need money to survive.
You do. Yeah. It's just the reality.
But like when I was a kid, like I would never draw for money, and was like I couldn't even like force anybody to like pay me. Like they couldn't force me to pay me for it. I just like I want to do it, and then after that, it's like I don't even want it anymore. Like because it's done. I'm not looking at it anymore, and just like I just give it away.
It's almost like what you value from it is more than just like on the surface. Like you're valuing the connection that or just the fulfillment you get from seeing someone else enjoy it, maybe.
Yeah, enjoyment, and then also like the process. Like when I go to like art galleries and I look at like paintings, I never. It was always hard for me because I went to school for art, and then when I went there, it was like contemporary based, so it was like a lot about like why the meanings behind it. But to me, that was never important. It was always like the process. So when I go look at a painting, like in my head, I'm trying to deconstruct it.
Yeah, like what they did
to make that, to make those effects.
Do you feel like when you're deconstructing, you said paintings at a museum, do you do that with all things? Like, for example, like I don't know, like when you see like an automobile or something, or when you see someone's like outfit, or like, do you do that with all things, or is it just limited to art?
I think lately it's been limited to art. Like, I mean, I'm always intrigued on how things are made. And like how they work, how the people made, and like who came up with the fucking idea to come up with shit like that, and like what was their thought and how did it start off. But like every time I'm more interested in like the process. Like a lot of times when I would go to paintings, I was like, all right, how do they fucking do this? Like I want to be able to do this. Like how would I do it, and what process and what steps, and especially if it's something I like.
It's funny you say that, because I was in Italy, and I don't forget what museum it was. It's the Uffizi. I forget the name of it. My wife's always the one. I enjoy going to all these museums, and I really do. But she's always, more just because she's that type of person. But like looks them up and books them and all that shit. But I just show up. But I saw the museum. I think it was Michelangelo's paintings, or was it? I think they were his. Yeah, and it was them in process. They were like paintings. I think the story goes that he had to flee because something with like the Pope or whatever. So he had to like leave, and he left a bunch of unfinished paintings, and it was a room of just those paintings unfinished. And it was the fucking coolest thing I seen ever in a museum, because it was like Michelangelo's unfinished paintings. And you could see he had like, there was a guy on a horse, and he just had the frame like you would paint now, like like just sketching it with one color,
like a little
gestures. But it was the horse had 3 heads, because he wasn't sure which
angle he wanted. And
and I was like, bro, like that's cool.
No, that's fucking, it's crazy. And then like even like doing little thumbnails, like having like 10 different drawings, which I never even thought about until
Sean Foy does that shit a lot.
Has like a little there where I have like 5 seconds on there, and then you can blow it up and like see what it is. And like to me, that's like all interesting. Like especially even with like
very interesting,
like how the whole process is to make like a traditional oil painting, where they come in, they do the fucking sketch, underpainting, then do the griselle level, and then do the base coat, and then whatever the fucking glazing is after that. And it's just like, to me, it's like that's. And they even like with I watched that one show about Vernier, where he did like all those paintings, and they're trying to figure out how he did it, where they almost used what's the camera obscura, where he had a hole in there, and he had like a whole light in another room set up, and where he kind of projects it into the wall.
Wow.
And
what is it called?
It's
is it chiaroscuro? No, that's
like no chiaroscuro is like when you're using like black, you're painting on black. Yeah. But like this is like essentially he's using the concepts on like the rudimentary like principles of like photography.
Oh, okay.
Where you have a room that's lit, and you'll have another room that's all blacked out, and
a hole,
and like a small hole.
So it's bringing in a small amount of light to the dark
room? Well, it's bringing light, but it's bringing almost the reflection of what you see on there onto the wall.
Oh, so it's like a primitive way of projecting.
Yeah, so like he would do that there, and then I watched this one.
And what was he doing with that? Was he using it to then paint something?
Yeah, to make
from a still life or something that he had set up in the other room.
Yeah, so he set up a whole room set up for the still life on there, and he had it on there, and that's how it there.
And then he would project it
on there, and then they were trying to figure out the ways how they did it. So there was this one documentary.
Wait. Well, who did this? Because I feel like now that you're saying this, I heard this.
It's a documentary on
I was probably
Netflix.
I was ADDing somewhere while this was on. I was supposed to be learning about it.
So
while my wife was, and I was looking at my phone or something.
So they were trying to figure out this process, because they were saying that Vernier's paintings were like the most realistic when it came to like tone and value and how everything looks in real life.
Man, I learned about this somewhere.
He takes like it's like a wall where he'll take he'll have like the image right here, and it'll be upside down. And he'll have like a 45-degree with a mirror, with a baseless mirror where it has no on there.
I definitely like, it's sick. Somebody explained this to me, or I might have went to, where was he?
I forgot where it was.
Because I feel like I've been to like the country because we've traveled a lot. And
I think Vernier is like, he's probably Dutch.
Yeah, man. Because we went to Amsterdam, and I think we might have went to a museum that like exemplified this. Yes. I could be wrong, but it's funny because my wife is like a museum nerd. Like she loves that shit. And that's because she, grew up, it's funny. We have like influences when we're young.
Yeah.
Much like you with the airplane. My wife's mother took her to museums as a kid, and that was like her thing. And it was like her, like, safety or something she really enjoyed doing. And I love art, but she like loves the museum aspect.
Oh, the meaning behind everything, like,
and like we'll like read everything. And she like loves it. Like me, I always felt like I'm very like, I don't know the word what it would be, but I'm very absorbent. Like, meaning I could just step into the museum and take a look around and like very fast, just kind of have like a like, and I kind of like pick up on it and then like take it in. But I don't like pay attention to the details. But it's weird because I'm a very detail oriented person in all the other aspects of my life. But even with people, sometimes I like talk to them and I'm not like paying attention to like every word they're saying, but they grasp the whole thing. But I feel the whole thing more than like words. It sounds crazy, but like I always just felt like I've always been doing shit like that. So I feel like I was in a museum somewhere and I did that, and I should have been paying more attention, but I was like, probably.
No, I do that a lot too.
You do that? Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get in like autopilot or anything like that, and I'll just absorb everything.
It probably just means I'm a fucking guy with ADD.
Oh, I probably have ADD to like the max.
Me too. And it's funny you say probably, because I don't know that I want to be like
diagnosed.
It's just me. So what am I going to do? What are we going to change? I'm not going to take a pharmaceutical medication. So we're just going to keep doing what I'm doing. So then
I felt like the biggest thing I learned growing up with having my like social anxiety and shit like that. Well, I never had a guy diagnosed where I have a disorder. More? Yeah. I'll take
Hell yeah. Hit you with one of those heavies. One of those Mark Wade style pours.
a little taste of that.
This is my favorite.
That's really smooth.
Now this is that local fucking Austin whiskey, man. I like it.
Oh
yeah.
To me,
this is made here, right in Austin.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I've been drinking it. It's like a daily. I'm into high end whiskeys and shit. Of course, I have a huge collection, but this is just like for me a very crushable like.
You can bust through the bottle and be.
Yeah, fine. I love it. It's just like easy to drink.
I like
cool.
it when it's smooth in there. It's really smooth. It tastes good. And I can keep on drinking, no problem.
Well, I know you barely slept. You said you caught that 4 a.m. Well, you got to the airport 4 a.m. 7 a.m. flight or something like that.
Yeah, no, like it was a 6 a.m. flight and I had to be there at 4. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like I essentially moved my whole apartment yesterday.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I was moving. I mean, I had like I got my apartment in the middle of April.
So you had both, like it.
Yeah, but I still have the other apartment until June 7th.
So it wasn't like it needs to be done.
No,
you were just doing it.
I just wanted to get it through because I really don't have a lot of days off in the next like 2 months. I think the next day off is Mother's Day, May 14th.
Are you going home?
Nah, I'm not gonna be able to go home because I gotta work the next 2 days.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be getting ready, but I'm be going home for like a week in June. I got a new German Shepherd puppy coming in.
Oh, cool.
I literally just got the deposit for her. It's an all black female.
Oh.
And I pick her up June 1st. So like
awesome.
It worked out perfect. So I'm gonna go down there, pick her up. She's my
fucking
little
love
buddy.
dogs, man.
Oh, me too. Like fucking.
My wife's uncle has a German Shepherd. It's huge.
Oh yeah, they get pretty big,
but he's like a really big one, and he's so beautiful.
Oh no,
he's a little baby boy, like, but he's like, so excited, but he's so little. I mean, so big.
Oh yeah,
but little, like as a like he's like.
I can hug. I love big dogs.
I love all dogs. Like, I'm a small dog guy personally, but I love them all.
I just love to hug them. Like I love hugging dogs, and I like to have them all around me. Like I grew up with German Shepherds, so like my whole life.
Did they sleep with you at all?
Yeah.
You see, I love that shit.
So when I had when I lived in Orlando, when I was over there by myself, I had my dog Princessa. I've had her for like 10 years, but she passed. We had to put her down like 2 years ago because her back legs went out. But it's fine. She had like a nice big life.
Someone tells me about their dog passing, and I could get like genuinely sad.
No,
and then they're like, "Oh, my, grandma died." And I'm like, "Oh, anyway." So
I cry more for my dog like than I did for anything else. Like I usually hardly ever cry. I cry more for like anime or anything like that when I get like emotional, but like in real life shit, like the only time I really cry was for Princessa. Like
I agree, man. I'm more sad hearing someone's dog died.
Oh, and the thing is, she was like when I was in college and I lived by myself, like I had a lot of like problems where I bought a house when I was in college.
Wow.
It was like a 2-bedroom, but it's when the market crashed in 2008 in Orlando.
And you still have it?
I still have. My parents live there now.
Bro, you're a fucking G, bro. That's cool as fuck.
It worked out perfectly.
Imagine having that kind of fucking. Where'd you like? I mean, that's crazy to even have the like wherewithal to understand to like make an investment on a market dip when you're like so young. Like it doesn't even matter. Like it's better to just get your money tied up in an asset.
It was cheaper for me than paying rent at an apartment. And
you had the down payment, or was at that time weren't they just giving out the loan?
They were giving out. Well, essentially they were giving out the loans because I was a first time home buyer, but like I just happened to like my dad mentioned, why don't you just try to buy a house while you're there and shit like that? Because I was
already. So you had some guidance from your dad.
Yeah,
your dad understood shit like that.
He gave me the idea, but like in the market over there, they had first time home buyer like program. So like if you bought a house that was either brand new, first like made new within the year, or it had at least $5,000 worth of like repairs within the last year, and you can just put either 1% down or $1,000, whatever's bigger on there. I bought the house for like $60,000. It's like a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom
and
duplex.
That was the total price on the house.
Yeah, total price on the house, and it made it even better.
What part of Florida is it in?
This is Orlando.
Oh, okay.
This is Orlando by UCF.
But it's definitely like had a quadruple.
Oh no, 100%. Like
I would think more.
I got it for $60,000, but then they took $20,000 and put it in a second mortgage. So like essentially, I bought it for $40K. If I own the house for 15 years, or at least it's been about 12 years now, I don't have to pay back that second mortgage on there. But in the life of the house costs $80,000, paying it off all out with taxes and interest and all that shit. The house is valued at $250,000 right now.
Yeah,
and
talk about a good ROI.
It worked out perfectly, but I'm probably never gonna sell it because my princessa, she's the dog that when I was in college living by myself and when I didn't have money, she's buried in the backyard. Because like when my parents were living there, I kept her over there because I couldn't take her with me to Miami just because I lived in an apartment complex.
So you moved to Miami on your own?
Yeah, I moved.
Your parents stayed in Orlando.
Well, they never lived in Orlando. They were living in Florida, in South Florida. When I first got out of college, I moved back down to my parents' house because I was going to college at FIU. And my cousins were living there and they were paying my mortgage or my rent and stuff like that. But they moved out. My dad was retired and stuff like that. And he's had like a lot of health issues. So I had them, they moved over there and they paid the mortgage like $400 a month.
Yeah, wow.
Like $400 a month. And they paid the mortgage.
It's crazy that like that at that time you get a house in Florida for that. I mean, I think I spent $400 today at like Target.
Oh, easily. Like easily.
Every day I'm off, I spend fucking $400. You know?
And it's crazy because I've almost had it for like 12, 13 years now.
That's crazy. This is probably almost paid off, or definitely, or
it's like almost halfway. I think I got the loan for like 30 years or something like that. Something like that.
You probably could pay it off. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got it letting it rock. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna let it ride like that, and then like have my parents pay the mortgage and just have build up my credit and shit like that.
Yeah, cool. Man.
And then they have a place where they live. It's like
that's
pretty
the shit
cheap.
They should teach kids at school.
Oh, I wish. Like
that's shit that you got to learn from an immigrant father. Right?
Yeah, like and the crazy part is like growing up in Florida, like you don't learn none of that shit. It's all about fucking taking fucking app. Well, my year I graduated high school was the first year they had the FCAT.
What's the FCAT?
So essentially, it's a standardized test that you need to graduate.
And that's a Florida thing?
Yeah. Well, they don't have it anymore. They stopped it.
What grade were you in when you had to take that?
You usually you can take it your like either sophomore or junior year on there, and essentially like a standardized like my whole high school career was me learning how to take a fucking test, which I ended up not using anyway.
Yeah, but that's how like the school system sometimes is they don't teach you like practical life skills like I don't know, getting fucked by the government every time you have to pay taxes and doing that. And then they should teach you like investing in real estate and stuff. Like it's like
they're trying to teach people how to work at fucking regular jobs. That's what it is. Because they need people to work those regular jobs. Because like
it's a conversation me and my wife have quite often because sometimes out in society, I'll get mad at someone and be like, why is that guy doing that? Like, it just seems crazy. Like, it seems very like primitive. Like, and then she's like, well, there's different levels. She always reminds me of that. Yeah. Like, you're thinking of like, you could just do that more efficiently or better.
Yeah.
And that's fine too. But you need people kind of at all levels of thought process, because without that, then you're not going to have, not everyone could be a manager, not everyone could be a boss, not everyone could be a landlord. Like for every landlord, you're going to need like 10 people to live in his building,
because if you don't have those people to do those jobs, then how things are going to get done, you got to do them yourself.
Yeah. Like you need like, if everyone was the owner of the restaurant, there'd be no one to wait tables.
Yeah.
And if there was no one to wait table, if everyone was, you need someone to wash dishes. For every position, there's like, it's just like a.
See in there, and it's crazy now that how there's like social media like showing like, you can make a lot of money doing this and that. A lot of people don't want to do like regular jobs no more and shit.
And I think that's a good point. I think people are starting to see shortcuts to doing things, and it's weird because it almost like remolds society. And I think we're in like a very pivotal point in existence because it's new and something like we've never seen before in history. Like people are just kind of conforming to where they feel like they can make money, but that's not like going to get a labor intensive job. That's like shaking your butt on Instagram.
Oh, it's fucking ridiculous.
And then it's like, where does that go? Like, is that, that's like very interesting. I'm like really excited to see the next, like,
the levels, like
next couple, like just next step in life. Like, where does that go?
It's crazy because like now I feel like a lot of jobs that like it's only gonna be like high school kids who can do it.
Yeah,
they're gonna be like the ones working like the regular like Starbucks and all that shit. And then
my whole gripe with it is like people talk about like raising the minimum wage and all that stuff, and like, and I get it from like an empathetic standpoint.
Yeah,
like of course, like I'd like to see people well compensated for anything they do, but the problem I feel like with that is like you raise the minimum wage, but then it's like, I don't think a greedy corporate business owner is going to be like, oh, great, let me pay this kid more money.
Yeah.
But I'll just take it out of my profit. I feel like they're going to maintain the same level of profit.
Oh, they're always going to maintain that.
They're going to pay him more, and then they're just going to pass off the cost to the consumer.
That's usually how it goes down.
And then not only just to the consumer, or they're going to cut some of the jobs and overwork that now higher compensated person, and it's going to almost become proportionally. And the only person who's going to pay for it is literally the consumer.
The consumer is going to get fucked out.
I think that's what they miss sometimes when they bring up these kinds of concepts. But it's like a very interesting. I don't know the answer. I'm not a fucking economist.
It's pretty crazy to think because, like, at the same time, they gotta realize fucking people making the same amount of money and they're not gonna be able to afford. Like, like to me, like, I don't understand how like people that don't make that much money, how can they even live like nowadays?
Wait, say that again.
Like, with like a minimum wage job, like, how do you survive?
Yeah, how do you survive? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's almost like I don't know because but I'm assuming that like it's not exactly ideal. Like I would think that you'd have to combine incomes potentially.
Yeah,
or roommates or and then it's like you get into this whole like sad situation. It's like then you're like maybe consuming like lower quality food.
Yeah, you're not as healthy.
Yeah, and then it like leads to health problems. You almost start to wonder like if that's kind of like linked with like a whole like chain. Not to get all crazy about that stuff, but like is that linked to like pharmaceuticals now?
Oh, probably.
Sick and
I feel like it's like almost like anything. Like a lot of people saying that they're not going to make a perfect product because they can't sell it to you again.
Right.
So it's like they eventually got to get people sick because then how they're going to make money and shit.
Yeah. It's like it's crazy how everything kind of just leads to money, right? Like,
no, that's what it is. It's because it's all about status. You have money, you're better, and then that's what everybody strives for. It's like.
Yeah.
Very few people really do things just because they love to do it now.
Yeah.
And they're all like incentive based, like money wise.
And I wonder why that, like what that is. Like going a step deeper, what in our evolution as humans makes that part of like the human condition? Because you see that in all different societies, cultures. You see it on like small levels when it comes to a small business and maybe the owner is like, greedy. Or you see it at a corporate level, right? But like, what in our human evolution is it like a feast or famine thing?
I think it's I see it as a feast or famine because like I feel like people had to like kind of like to survive, they had to kind of take care of themselves.
Like it's built into the code.
Yeah.
Like if we're just primitive beings out in the wild, you need to survive.
Yeah.
So if you find a bunch of food, you're gonna hoard it.
And you're gonna like, I'm gonna need this for later.
Yeah, and then you have kids that you need to take care of, and a mate or whatever, and then there's another like family unit. You're not going to be like, oh, you take half of this and I'll take half of this. You might just be like, I'll take it all, because it's more important that my people survive.
Then forget that shit.
But I think if we didn't have that, would we even
we probably wouldn't be around here.
Forget about like the emotion and forget about like the literal like example, like the literal situations with like people around you and love and like society today. But think of it from like a literal like evolutionary standpoint. It almost makes sense, like, because it's like if we didn't have that in us, then we wouldn't be compelled to survive.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here. Like, how the fuck are like all those cavemen and Neanderthals?
It's almost like the winner of evolution had to have that algorithm built into them, or they wouldn't have been the winner. They would be extinct already.
It's almost like selective breeding. Like when you breed certain dogs that have certain traits, and like the people that survive. So it's like almost survival of the fittest. Like the people who survive, the ones who did hoard and did keep them things. So like a lot of those like traits are like evident in like society nowadays.
And they only are shown because like literally those are the people that survived, so they bred. Yeah. And then like you get the like nowadays, I guess because maybe we mentally evolved to the point where we can be conscious of it. We're like, wait, does that serve us? Yeah. So maybe we're at like a evolutionary turning point, right? Like it's very interesting.
I can see that in there now. It's like I think I was watching one of the Joe Rogan podcasts where they were talking about stuff like that and like what happened if like there are no more jobs. Like how will we survive? Like what will we do as a society if they do have like robots for everything now? Are we gonna be like in a utopia where it's like now we're just being creative?
Because we're like almost enslaving the robots then to do the work for us. And you're saying, can we get along in harmony while having these tasks automated? Yeah. Or will it like spew more war of like who controls the robots?
That's the issue. I was like, yo, if we have everything, like imagine in a society where we have everything.
It's not only just the issue, it's like the
ego.
It's the common denominator that seems to happen no matter how advanced the society, right? Like people were doing that in like fucking caves and shit. Yeah. It's like, but it's just like you just replace the variable, which is just like the time period, and it's just you see the same thing over and over.
It's always everything repeats and everything just goes back and forth, patterns and shit like that. Yeah. I guess evolutionary, we're all very like still similar to how we are and like in the mindset. Maybe it'll change over like hundreds and thousands of years.
I think that's what evolution is. It's very slow.
Yeah.
I wonder if like our brain and our perception, like our awareness of it evolves before the action.
I feel like probably does.
Yeah. And like, I wonder how that can be related. Like, cause I feel like maybe that's the same case for art. Like sometimes you need to do something so much so and almost create a sense of mastery. Like maybe you create a style, and then you start to, you know, even just literally in our tattoo industry, it's like, cool, I created this style, now people are flying to me for this style, I'm increased my prices to get compensated properly for this style. And then you do it, and then it's like that same evolutionary thing kind of kicks in and you're like, wait a minute, like I don't feel challenged in a way. And I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but like, it's just, it almost like then it's like you need to like adjust and kind of like go out and hunt again almost.
No, I definitely agree. Like even with tattooing, like how we were talking about earlier, if you sit here and just do everything gets like redundant and gets like boring, and it's like almost you get set in like autopilot and you have to kind of like change what you're doing, like either do it somewhere else or do a different style, and it kind of evolves in that way. And I can see it.
I wonder if that's like an evolutionary trait to begin with. Like we constantly keep striving for more. Like is that like that's gotta, because like I notice a common denominator with many people, including myself. It's like this challenge to just keep like resetting like the
beginning, because like I feel like as people maybe we need a purpose to do something, because then why we're even doing it? Why don't we just like kill ourselves or some shit like that?
Yeah, because it's like, well, and maybe like honestly, to touch upon what you're saying, maybe that's why like there are people who are suicidal, depressed. They just lack that purpose.
Yeah.
But my question is even more, it's like, why do we need, like, where does that come from in our evolution?
It has to be something. Maybe we have to kind of achieve something like, I don't even know, maybe like a caveman or something like that was like, all right, this is cold, we're freezing, we need to do something different.
So we need to achieve warmth.
Yeah, we need to achieve warmth, and we got it now. Now what we need to do? We need to do a wheel. Now we need to do.
Yeah, we need to achieve like killing an animal so we can cook it on the fire that I created before to stay warm.
Because like that, I feel like if we don't have like a purpose for something to do or to achieve or goal,
it's like flatline.
Yeah, it's like, all right, it's almost like, yo, there's nothing else to do. Like I'm in autopilot, and then like what's even the purpose of like living and shit?
I'm done.
Yeah, it's like I don't even need this right now.
Maybe that is death. Maybe death is that.
Yeah.
Like literally, and not like when you physically die, but
like when you're like, I guess your spirit dies in a sense.
Like, but I almost feel like now that we talk about it like that, almost like your spirit could be dead while you're alive.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Like they're, you know, like if someone has no purpose, but they're like literally standing next to me, like
they're just in there. I'm just doing what I do. I know there's been times where I felt like, yo, I need to change something different because it's just I'm an autopilot, dude. That's why I never like.
It's almost like your purpose got a little bit stale.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot of times where, like, if people don't move up in a company, they tend to want to just quit and leave and go somewhere else just because it's the same routine, the same thing every day, and nothing changes, there's nothing exciting in life, and it's like, I feel like we need that.
Maybe that's like, yeah, humans are just inquisitive. Maybe it's like a innate sense to like explore, like, so then you do that within your career and yourself. Yeah, I know for me, it's exactly the case. Like, even with my art style and like the way, like, I feel stagnated sometimes in that. And I think that I like that the best, though, because even when I'm at like what I consider a lull and like I'm kind of lost artistically, I find that's my favorite time. And I think to relate it back to what you were saying before, it's almost like part of this overall process. Yeah. Like, I understand just, you know, if we relate it to like a game of soccer, like, the sport isn't just scoring goals or hitting home runs in a baseball game. Like, it's like, how do you run the bases and like, how do you, you know, read the pitcher or like, you know, anticipate a pass on the pitch.
It's almost like a chess game where you kind of trying to react and like kind of outsmart the other person.
And you might need to make a few steps in what seems like the wrong direction to then ultimately get into position to take not even the king maybe, but the queen, so that, you know, in 10 more moves, you can then go after the king.
And the crazy part is like fucking thinking in that type of sense where it's like, kind of like fucking, damn. Say again what you just said.
It's like you make a few steps backwards to go further forward. I mean,
yeah, all right. So that's what I was like going at. Is like, I feel like all the major advancements into art is when they kind of like once they understand the rules, they kind of break them to kind of like see where you can kind of push the level. Even with like tattooing, like I didn't really get interested in tattooing until I see someone like kind of do a portrait.
Because you're like, whoa, that was something new.
Yeah, something new, something different. It's kind of like they're pushing the envelope. And just imagine if they just kept with just doing straight traditional tattoos. It's like, all right, this is it. It probably would not have the same amount of mass appeal as it does now, just because they're pushing it what is. And a lot of things where people say like, oh, you can't do this. These are the rules. You need to do it. And people break it and they kind of like go in. Now they're all the crazy shit that people doing now is like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost like we're as an industry, we keep breaking the rules, but it's almost like because innately humans individually break rules, and to like relate back to like this evolutionary shit we were talking about just before, we're like doing that in our tattoo industry, right? It's like the same fucking thing manifesting, and it's why everything evolves, right? Yeah. Even technology. Now we're at the brink of like fucking AI. I don't know if you fucked around with some of this.
I seen some of the like Mid-Journey and all that. It's like, it's crazy because like I remember when people just start fucking with like Windows 95 and like fucking having like a fucking big ass fucking monitor, and like when Apple first came out and shit. And I was like, where's that?
You know what my gripe with the fucking Mid-Journey is like, now, I at first I was like, I didn't have an opinion on it, and I still don't. I don't like care about it. Yeah. Like for me, it doesn't threaten me, you know, at all. But I feel like now I'm starting to see people, and I'm just like, hi Mid-Journey, like it's 100%. Very obvious for me.
Because the thing is, what people are doing instead of like, I feel like you can use that as a tool to like kind of like almost like a like learning lesson, because there's so many different like things like color theories and like color palettes that you won't probably think about, and that they go through it and it shows different things. But even with that, it's like,
but that existed anyway if you think about it, because realistically all these color palettes, I think people are just fucking lazy, because like I was saying, they're in graffiti, you could go to a museum and fucking masters were already using them, or you can go to the fucking MoMA and some hipster was using some fucking whack color theories and stuff. You could simply just look at a magazine or something. Yeah. It already, in my opinion, existed, but now Mid-Journey is just like, now you don't got to get off your computer.
You don't have to do all that.
Because it's drawing, the Mid-Journey is extracting that information from things that already exist
on there, and what they'll see, and they kind of, but I think the more issue is like, it depends on what you do with it. Because I feel like some people will just like, they'll put that there and they'll take it and like, oh, here's a finish. I want a tattoo.
But I know like that's what I'm saying. I know the people doing that. Yeah. Like very easily, because Mid-Journey at its current state, it's not perfect.
No, it's not.
I see the little weird things
like hands mess up,
or like these weird layers of drape that like lay over something that are nothing. Like I see it.
A lot of it's just like, it's crazy. Like I don't really use it too much, but if I would use it, I wouldn't use it in the sense where I'm going to take that reference and like, or I'm going to tattoo that reference. I would do is like, even with the new shit I'm doing now, it's like I'll take a face and see like maybe a part of it, and then I'll do something on top of it, change it up on there.
I've used it like that maybe 3, 4, 5 times now, and when I did, it was like I didn't feel bad about it because I was literally
changing up the whole thing.
I was just using the face, and then I'll still run it in Photoshop and put 2, 3, 4 other photos, freehand something in, change the coloring on it.
And now what I do like about it is because like that's why I kind of like I see you do a lot of ZBrush and stuff like that, and like a big time where it's like. When I try to find faces and animals and shit like that, it's always the same fucking references on Google and shit like that. And I feel like at least with that, it's like almost a new way to kind of get like a new reference that maybe someone else doesn't have.
But here's the funny thing is I feel like that is at its infancy. And I think that my thing that I'm starting to observe that in a few years that can almost become like Google, but in a 3D space.
Yeah. And I can kind of see, because what you're talking about, I was kind of thinking in the sense where it's like, say if I want to make a scene that's like kind of like very specific, or I want it dark and it's like going down a hallway, I can kind of like recreate that and like use those AIs to kind of come up with a bunch of different versions of it, so I can kind of like mentally like maybe like understand like, all right.
It is cool because it's actually making more infinite possibilities that like when you're using a Google, there's so few,
and it's just whatever people put on. Now this is like, I'll take a bunch of things and blend it together and make it on there.
Yeah. And then that'll get better and get a bigger database over time anyway. So it's like, yeah, it's like almost better in a way. But I think it's just like you said, how you use the tool. You're still going to look up a dark hallway, but then you're going to and we mentioned this early at the beginning when we were talking, like you're still going to, it's going to run through Jordi.
Yeah. I look at it this way, like if 10 different people do the same tattoo.
Yeah. Even if they literally do
the same line wearing, they're trying to do it exactly.
It's going to be
different. 10 different versions. And I feel like a lot of it is based on how you interpret and how you apply what you see. And each person is different. Like I feel like that's the whole process with painting. It's like everybody can look at the same reference and the same thing, but it's how your filter and how you apply it. It's going to be different from the next person and the next person on there. Exactly.
And I think that like with Google, it's like cool. Like, me and my wife would sometimes go out to like a bar and I'd be like, I'd see a guy, we have like this inside joke where we always go sick ink, like making fun of like some really bad tattoos. Or something like that. So like she'll point out like some sick ink and like, I'll see the guy with like it's like literally the fucking lion from like the third picture. You know what I mean? Like,
the same line.
That's
like, so everybody got the good one.
It's so funny. Like tattoo artists just know like that
where the reference.
Yeah. So it's like, and I think that's where I respect like illustrative tattoo artists a real lot. But I think if you're a realism or like surreal or like what you do or like what I do or something, you still create your own. It's because like I'm literally just borrowing references, but I break them down so much by the time I use it.
It's all completely different. I'm using like a part of it, or maybe using the eye, maybe I'm using the reference.
I'm dodging things. I'm putting a fucking, like color layer or like a whole like overlay, and then I'm like masking out something to make it like dark, and like I'll add like a light source to something that wasn't even there. And then I'll mix in like so I'll find like the woman and the hands, and I'll fuck with those, and I'll even like paint in some things, and then I'll like make the thing in ZBrush that she's holding
on there
to match the light, and then I'll screenshot the ZBrush and bring it into the Photoshop.
Oh, that's fucking.
And then some of it I'll just do one, and then I'll just like, okay, there's a blue light hitting the left side, like I don't even need to put it in there. I'll just do it when I'm tattooing.
Yeah, and usually a lot of times it's like how I look at application with colors and stuff like that. I look at the value, not even the color, because like I feel like
because the color doesn't even fucking matter.
It does matter, because like if you understand the value of what that tone is, you can fucking just have like a bunch of colors. Maybe have like there, and it somewhat looks somewhat decent.
But there is a opposite of what you're saying. Well, you could do it that you could literally just. I mean, it could be like a paint splat. Like you could literally make it like there's no rhyme or reason, but if the value is right, it technically would read right.
Yeah.
But then there is like a whole nother avenue when you start talking about like temperature
and and heat and cold and bringing things forward.
Something warm was exploding to the left. Like why would the light be cold? Because it's like literally like fire.
Right there on there.
Yeah, it's like but then it's like. But I think as long as you're consistent, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a whole tattoo in a cool form, even though there's like a warm element, but that's just like the style.
Yeah, and you can kind of keep it where like has certain harmonies where it's like, all right, I want to have this part just warm where I can kind of make the tension come right there and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think as long as if you're faking it and you're making it and it looks cool, that to me, especially in tattooing, I think that's all that matters. You get real nerdy about it and be like, that's wrong because that should have been. I think as long as it's with intention.
Yeah, like if you understand what you're doing. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever. And it's like, they don't really understand. And a lot of things just look like shit.
Well,
like
you could
muddy.
tell. Sometimes I could tell when someone doesn't understand like how something works.
Yeah.
I think that I used to tell that to like kids that would ask like, you know, and I used to say like, you just like, there's a highlight here on my cheek because there's a fucking bone.
Yeah,
pointing out, so it creates, you know what I mean?
That little curve, and where's like the top part where the core shadow's at.
Whatever, yeah, like it's because there's literally like I think if you just understand why, then it's easier to do it.
Yeah. Can we take a break? I gotta pee really bad. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, rock it out. Finally,
we're back. That was an amazing piss break.
Oh, it always feels so good because you're just sitting here engaged and like no one wants to say they have to piss. But like,
no, I was holding for a minute. I was like, all right, I gotta go.
Every time I do these things, it's like I always have to kind of go because I'm just like cycling between water. Whiskey, coffee. Speaking of, did I finish my coffee? Yeah, I'm gonna get another one after this. I I know you're like a coffee guy.
Yeah.
I drink. Sometimes I drink coffee too much, like too late.
When I was living in Miami, it was like each one of the people in the shop would go and get a fucking colada, and it's like.
And they would ask you, do you want anything?
You want a shot? So,
and you say, yeah.
Yeah, and then by the time, because it tastes so good, so by the time like 8 o'clock comes around, we already had like 7 or 8 shots.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, my heart's racing. I can't sleep.
Yeah, that's me kind of every day. Sometimes I think I'm like a certified insomniac, but other times I think I just drink too much fucking coffee.
Well, from what I heard, if you drink coffee after 12, it's like 8 hours in your system.
Yeah.
And another thing I learned, I was watching, was that guy Andrew Huberman?
Yeah, I know. I stopped listening to that guy because he makes me like feel like I'm a piece of shit. No, I'm kidding. I take cold showers and I get sun in the morning. I take my glasses and my hat off and I stand in my yard, or I'll leave, and like when I get out of my car here, I'll stand on the corner
and just get the sun in your face.
And just soak it.
I do the same thing. I want to start taking the cold baths.
But I know. I want to buy one. I don't own a house. We rent.
The same here.
So if I do buy a house, I'll get one because then it's like more permanent and you know it'll be
You can sit there and not there. And I live in an apartment complex, so I can't just put a bunch of ice in my bathtub.
Yeah, it's too much. I want to buy like the good one where you like sit
there and because like he was saying like I think you need 11 minutes a day of like cold therapy, and then like
do you shower cold?
I try to. So what I do is I'll take a warm shower at first.
Me too.
And then towards the end, I'll put it all the way cold and
same.
Try to sit as long as I can.
I do the same thing.
It's harder than just jumping into a bath because it's like once you get in, it gets a little bit warmer.
And that's a lot colder.
Yeah.
I think the shower is just like
it's dripping down your back.
It's like a supplemental thing. It's like you're just doing it a little bit.
Just a little bit, just to wake your ass up.
But I heard it gives you endorphins. Yeah. And I heard it releases it slow.
It releases there and
throughout
also
the day.
And it also like I guess it improves your blood circulation and like psychologically it wakes you up for the whole day, and you like, because you were saying something like the best way to learn something is like after you learn it is like have something like traumatic happen to you real quick, and he was like mentioning something about like how when they would learn something they would just throw the kids in the cold water or something like that, and they'll retain the information a lot better that way.
Right. Oh, like literally.
Yeah.
Like teach them something separate,
and
then
just get them. Throw them in there where they have to like there, and they keep that information a lot longer.
It like locks it in.
Yeah, and then
it's like freeze the info into his brain.
And then another thing is I stopped drinking coffee right when I wake up. I wait an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Well, I did that today, so that's cool.
Because they were saying is like when you sleep, you have all this cortisol in your body, and then when you wake up, it slowly dissolves. So if you drink within the first like hour and a half, you still have that cortisol. So the caffeine blocks it and doesn't let it dissolve. So once the caffeine effect like wears off, you get a crash then in the middle of the day. So it's like the ways to kind of get that cortisol off is like working out in the morning, getting sun.
Do you work out every morning?
I used to like I don't like working out at night. Like I'll do is I'll wake up like at 6 or something like that, work out for an hour, and then go through, and I feel a lot better throughout the whole day when I do work out.
What time do you normally wake up?
I mean, it depends because it fluctuates, like especially when my like schedule is traveling.
So you don't follow like a strict routine?
I don't, only if I'm at home the whole time, and then I try to get in that routine, but it usually kind of like slows off. Something happens, like I've traveled, like the travel really fucks me up.
I know. I used to do it a lot, man. Yeah, it's becomes. There was times when I would be packing my luggage and just be like, "Fuck!" Like I hate this.
Yeah, and it's like, fuck,
and it explodes the ink, and it's like not even to be cliche, like the ink exploding. It's not so much the ink even exploding. It's just like now, like everything I own is just dirty. Like I don't know. It got on like
Everything. Well, now I do is I have a Pelican case for like traveling where I keep it, and then
Do you bring a lot of colors when you travel?
It depends. I try to bring my whole set.
I know.
I try to bring the whole set because I never know.
Prepared.
I never know, and I always like to be over prepared. That's why I drive a lot to conventions now. Like I moved from the biggest thing was me moving from Miami because Miami is like 6 to 8 hours just to get out of Florida.
Yeah, you're out in the dick of Florida.
Going to any convention, most of them are on the East Coast. It's like 15, 16 hours.
But now where you live, you're like a little more, at least on the East Coast, and you could go out.
I can drive to everyone now. Like now it's like if I go to Chicago from Maryland, it's like 9-10 hours.
So what's your driving limit? Like where do you
20 hours.
So you'll drive up to 20 hours.
Up to 20 hours on there, and that's like kind of the max. And now because like I have a Tesla, it makes it a little bit easier. So it's like every 2.5 hours, 3 hours, I have to stop and charge. And it's like 20-30 minutes. So I'll take a nap. And if I'm driving by myself, because before.
So it has the con in the sense you can't just keep driving, but it has the built-in pro that you must like relax.
Yeah, it helps me if I'm driving by myself.
So now, while you're charging, you just take a nap.
Take a nap on there, relax, and then like, because I only have like 2 to 3 hours max where I can be on the road and just like going out there. And now since I have like the auto drive, I like watch a lot of like podcast videos.
Wait, that shit's like functioning fully now?
Oh, it's not in the sense where like I could put an address from my house and then
take a nap
and it'll take me there. I don't have the full self-driving beta. I have like the enhanced one, but it's so good on the fucking highway.
So there is one higher than you have?
Yeah. So like the full self-driving beta, essentially you can put addresses on there and it'll stop. They have the option where you're gonna have like driving through autos, like city streets, where it'll recognize like stop signs, green lights, red lights, and shit like that. The way I have it now is just like autopilot on there. And
so it's like more for like when you're cruising at the highway and you can take your hands off the wheel.
Oh, I take my hands off the wheel like for like an hour.
Oh, like that?
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, it's what I'm doing is probably not legal anymore because they have the sense where I have this little. You're supposed to like.
Yeah, but you're a tattoo artist. You break the. rules.
I break the rules all the time.
Yeah.
I live like a pirate, even like before I was tattooing. But like with that, they have.
You were getting busted inside of abandoned building.
Abandoned, like getting snitched on and all that shit. Yeah. But
so you're out there cruising, just fucking flying down in the Tesla.
Oh, like it gives me a max where I can only do 85.
You got one hand on the iPad.
Oh, and even the iPad
on your crotch.
I watch a shitload of anime on there, and like because I have to read it. Most of it's in Japanese, so I have to read the subtitles on there. But I have it set up where it's like.
But you're making me want to get one of these.
Things. I think it was probably one of the best investments I got.
Which one do you have?
I have a 2022 Model Y.
And it's funny. I asked that question confidently as if I know the difference. But is it the one that's bigger, like the SUV kind of crossover, or is it like the car?
All right, so there's 4 different versions. There's 2 versions that are essentially a car. There's the 3, which is the smaller version, the smaller one you see, and then there's the high end one, which is like the really nice one. And then they have 2. They're like hatchbacks. There's one that's the Model Y, which is essentially the Model 3 but with a hatchback. And then they have the Model X, which has the fucking Lamborghini doors and all that shit. I think those start off like 100,000. The one I got was like eventually with all the self-driving, and because I have the
don't you have to like unlock those, right? You pay for those or something?
Yeah, well you have to pay for like I think for the enhanced autopilot it was like 6,000.
Okay, but you could unlock that when you feel like it.
Yeah. So like
you just like you could be like a little tipsy one day, just hanging out in your fucking bedroom and just be like. And you're like sitting there sweating, thinking if you should or shouldn't unlock it. Yeah. You're like, tomorrow. And then like you just like you had a couple extra drinks and you're like, fuck it. And you wake up and you're like, I unlocked it.
I get it. Well, it's a little bit more different because you have to like update it.
So you have to go down to the dealer?
Not even the dealer. So it's done through Wi-Fi. So you have to have a Wi-Fi connection.
But I mean, you could push purchase.
Yeah, you can put purchase. So they have the option. Like say if I wanted to do the full self-driving beta, and I feel like it's like, because it's still
Isn't that one 10K?
That one's actually 12K now.
12, but is your... like what you have deducted from it or another 12K?
No, it would be like, I think I would have to pay $9,000 if I want to just download the whole thing, but they give you a subscription option also, which is $99 per month.
So you could just pay monthly to have it.
Yeah.
So you could try it for a month or two.
Try a month. I could do like this full self, but in reality, I think I'll never probably use this full self-driving unless they have it like really good. Cause that shit gets kind of embarrassing on the fucking regular streets. Cause there's still like some bugs you got to worry about. Like if you're going onto a merge lane, it tries to keep right in the middle lane. So like if the merge comes this, it'll come out like this and then come back into it.
And could it get you into an accident?
I don't think it'll get me in an accident. It'll be based on if
it'll just make your car do a weird maneuver.
Weird mirror and it'll be embarrassing, or like it'll stop and it'll slow down and it won't go as quick. on there, like if someone's waiting behind me, you know, like people are very impatient and shit like that.
Oh, so they'll be like beeping at you.
Yeah, beeping at me, and like you're taking there, and like sometimes,
and you're like, and then they beep at you, and you can't hear what was going on in your fucking anime because they're beeping at you, and you're like, what did I do? And they're
like, what happened?
I didn't drive fast enough. Like
I have it set up.
Like, I don't know. It's not me. It's the fucking car, bro. I'm watching anime,
dude. There's been a couple of times where it's like, if it like, because the whole system is not the sensors how they had it before. It's called Tesla Vision, so they have like cameras throughout the whole car. So it picks up.
It used to be more of like a sonar type of thing.
Yeah.
Now they evolved to just full on
visual cameras on there. So it's like sometimes it'll slow down if it's like they see an emergency light. If it's like emergency light on the side,
but it could just be guys raving on the side of the street and thinks it's an emergency light.
I haven't had that happen yet. Nothing like that happened yet.
But you know how weird there's a couple dudes on the side of the road just fucking doing Molly, like, but they had red and blue lights on while they were raving. And
it'll pick that. It'll pick up. It won't stop. It'll slow down.
The question is, if you did stop at that, would you get out and party with them, or
hell yeah,
get back in the car?
Oh, it depends on like if I needed to be somewhere at a certain amount of time. But if not, if I had time, I'll fucking
like
party.
If you had time, you'll pull over.
Oh, I'll party it.
Get down.
That shit got like little options where I can put a light show on my car.
Oh, so you could pull up.
I can pull up and I'll
add to the lights.
Yeah, I could add the lights on. Like I think the most recent update was like for New Year's, so like they had like the whole Rock the Bells type shit on there, and fucking.
So they have like a bunch of quirky Easter eggs.
Yeah, a whole bunch on there, and like there's one where it's like, if you press it down 5 times and you're on like...
Doesn't the car like fart or something?
Oh, no. It has that option where you can put it where every time you put a turn signal, it farts.
Have you done it?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And then like now, like say I have like a Sentry mode. So essentially it has cameras on the car. So if anybody goes near it, it'll start recording whatever, like anything that happens.
So even like right now, you're here... You can get an alert on your phone that some kid is just fucking
it won't give me alert, but I can look up my phone. Like say if I want to see, I can go on there and I can
see what's going on.
It'll show me the camera at the front, the sides, and the back, and even inside the car. It has a camera inside the car.
Yeah, so if someone were to like rob your car right now, you'll have footage.
I'll have footage saved up on there. And now, like say if I know someone's going to my car and I want to play a prank on them, it gives the option where I can put a megaphone on there.
Oh.
So like if it's connected and like, because you all need the Wi-Fi for it anyways. But I can set up where I can see. So
it's because it needs to be on Wi-Fi. It needs to be in like your driveway in Wi-Fi range.
No, because it has its own specific Wi-Fi.
It's like its own hotspot.
Own hotspot. Yeah. So it'll automatically record. But like, say if like I'm in an area where my phone has no reception, it won't pick up what it is because it needs the reception to get onto there. But
yeah,
I can literally go on my phone, like look on the camera, and like someone's walking there. I can either do a fart thing. I can do
while they walk by.
Yeah, they walk by. I can sit there and talk shit and be like, "Yo, back away from the fucking car." Or this, I can even make like a fake and it sounds
like right now.
Yeah, like right now. Like if I grab my phone, I can go there and like if I can put a megaphone.
And
I
can
just
talk to
shit on
some
there.
Chick walking her dog.
Like yo, I see this. Like hey.
Yeah,
come over
and
here.
Like, what's that?
They were like, "What the fuck is this?" And it sounds menacing.
Why is that not like more of a thing? There should be like fucking like I should see like YouTube videos.
Oh, they should have it on there.
Is there? I don't know. Maybe
I do it sometimes. Like say if I was in DC and we had a couple artists. They were coming down. They did the convention in DC, and so we all went out. And one of the guys parked next to my car, and I knew he was going by. So when he was around there, and I looked at my camera, and I saw him there, and I just started talking shit like, "Get the fuck away from here! I see you! All that shit."
Yeah.
And that shit, it's like a menacing, like almost like that 90s like Cobra fucking
but it
like car alarm.
Yeah, oh yeah, remember that shit?
Yeah, it's like back away. And it sounds like a robot. I'm like, oh shit, this shit's fucking funny.
But that's cool. So like you have that's like a sense of security built into your car.
100%.
I mean, you could almost use it as like a security. Like say it was in my driveway and I wasn't home.
Yeah,
I can just tune into my car to like also just kind of check my property in a way.
And no, in anything that it'll say it there. You can like sit
so
there.
If it's in my driveway, it'll like kind of scan around.
So it has 5 cameras, 1 in the front, 2 on the sides, 1 in the back, and then 1 inside of the car. So you can see all that shit.
So you're always rolling.
Yeah, always rolling. Now the only thing is if your car is under 20%, the function doesn't work.
I see. So
you have to kind of keep it like it's almost like a car battery.
But if you're home, okay. But if you were out and you were at 20% and you were, well, I guess you could always find a charger, right? But like you probably try not to roll that low.
Like anytime.
Like how often are you at under 20% when you're like out and about?
Never. I'm never at 20%.
Yeah.
Unless, because like I know I had
Seems
one
like
time.
A crazy play. I mean, it's almost like your phone, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm at 20% and I'm out at like a bar, I'm a little uneasy.
Like, yeah, it's like, I need to get this phone. And especially now because I use my phone to get in my car. because it has the app on there, so it automatically unlocks when I get near the car. And
this is funny coming from a guy, because when I first, picked you up today, and you were like, yo, I was texting you from my iPad. And I'm like, why? And you're like, because my phone was dead.
Yep.
And I'm like, you just flew to a new city with a dead
phone. And I was like, scary. I can imagine.
Did it die before you got to your hotel?
No,
you didn't even bring a charger.
I didn't even bring a charger.
But what about your iPad? When that died, you were fucked too?
Well, I had my charger.
Oh, that's
my
the USB-C.
Yeah.
I guess you were never too fucked, because you could have just went to a store and bought one.
I could have went and got one under. It was like one of those where
you probably would have eventually if you had to, right?
I was glad I had the iPad, because all right, I know I need to get paid or I need to write out where I need to go. And then I was like, all right, let me make sure I got battery. And then I looked at my phone, it was at 1%. I was like, fuck. And then I realized I have my fucking iPad. And the thing is, I got service with my iPad, so I have a phone number on it.
So you have the full ass 5G shit on it.
Yeah, 5G. So
you have a plan on it.
So essentially now, if my phone's dead, I don't need Wi-Fi or anything like that. I can just go on my iPad.
You just had a big ass phone.
Essentially, that's how I felt like when I was walking down the street. I tried to figure out, I was like, yeah, this is the biggest phone I've ever had.
Where is this guy? And he comes walking with an iPad. and then you're like, oh, I forgot my charger in Maryland.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And you're like, yeah, it's in my car. Well, you said it was in your car. And I'm like, where's your car? And then I was like, wait a minute, he flew here. Yeah. And then I was thinking about, so you don't have, and I'm like, wait, you don't have a charger? And you're like, no, I'm all good. I'm like, bro, I got a charger. I was like,
I got my iPad. I was like, there. As long as I have a little charge, because I usually check through my American.
You also rolled up like street smart as fuck, right? You had a sweatshirt wrapped around your iPad.
Oh no! Once I walked out the other way, and I was like, all right, there's a lot of homeless people. Yeah, I'm not gonna be walking around with a fucking iPad.
Right, your iPad wrapped in a sweatshirt.
I was like, I'm gonna hold it right here just in case. They're not. I don't want to draw attention to myself and shit. Because
I love it.
I lived in the hood. And shit. I know. I've been pulled up on before when having shit like that. So I was like, I'm not having that shit happen again.
Well, hopefully, I'm not bringing you to an area like that.
I think it was pretty fine. I've been in worse areas.
I feel like the homeless people out here, because it's like a fucking hipster ass city. You're like the last guy they probably want to
try to rob or anything like that. I was like,
because you would think they want to fuck with the guy who has the least level of resistance. I know me and Sean Foy always talking about this, guy with a face tattoo and fucking gold teeth and a beard, you're a bad
They're thinking about it. Yeah, they're gonna think about it. It's all right, who's this guy?
They got to be real desperate, because there's about to be some Midwestern fucking hipster walking by in 2 seconds who looks like he needs to get robbed. It might even benefit him if he gets robbed, because he looks soft. Yeah,
it's like maybe it'll toughen him up a little bit. A little tenderizer.
Maybe he'll get exposed to reality. Not just his fantasy idea of things. How people in the streets actually might be.
Oh man, bro, it's like just growing up in those type of environments. Is like every time I walk anywhere, I'm constantly like, yo, I pick up on little things, and a lot of it's based on feelings. I'm so used now, because when I lived in Orlando,
it should be, because you're not oblivious to true reality. You know?
And a lot of it's I feel like I try to go with my intuition, because my intuition hasn't been wrong yet. The one time I got robbed at my house, when I lived in Orlando. The first time I was there, is my roommate was selling a little bit of weed here and there, and I guess we had a guy come fix our AC unit, but he brought somebody who saw that, and they thought we had a lot of money, because my roommate was, and in reality, he only had an ounce of weed, and he would sell it just to keep so he could smoke for free, type shit,
selling fucking nickel bags.
Yeah, and then this was one time I was gonna go get my driver's license early in the morning, because my license expired, and I was getting ready to go, and then I get a knock on two girls on my door, and I was like, instantly I had a weird feeling. I was like, yo, this is not fucking right.
Two girls just showed up.
Yeah, two girls
were they pretty?
No, not at all. They were on the borderline, maybe looking like they could be crackheads, and type
two
shit.
Busted ass crackheads.
Yeah. And they came in, they're like, yo, and I normally with that is I didn't just open my door.
Why'd you open the door? Or you didn't?
I didn't. I opened the door and I went outside, and I closed the door after me. And because I had an automatic feeling, it just felt weird as fuck. No one ever came to my house at that time. It was 11 in the morning, and they're like, yo, my car broke down. You have a phone we can use and shit like that. And then when I was like, all right, yeah, fine. But I was outside. I wouldn't just leave my door open on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then as soon as I had a weird feeling, and then they're all like, oh, can I use one? And then they're kind of never mind. And they kind of walk back, and these two hood guys come out and shit. And they kind of talk to them. And I heard them. I was like, yo, did you find some weed? And I was like, oh, this is a setup. As soon as they started walking their car, I turned around. They rushed me.
Oh.
They rushed me right away. And then I went to close the door. and they kicked the door and my door broke like this. And
so
then
your door just top hinge gives out, falls down, boom.
Like this, and there's two guys. I go to hit the other one. The other guy pulls up a gun on me.
Oh.
So he pulls a gun, and after that, I'm like, yo, take where the fuck you want. I'm not trying to die fucking... Because I didn't really have that much shit. Like, all I had was, like, they stole, like, my PS4, my computer, and some money. But I was literally on the floor on my house with a gun held back in my head, and I was like, yo, take where the fuck you want. Yeah. And all that shit, and they all run out, and I tried to chase after them. And like fucking...
so you chased the guy with the gun?
Yeah, well, I didn't chase...
Did you get a gun or no?
No. It was like one of those where they jumped in their car and they dipped. And as soon as I saw I jumped in my car and I was about to go after them to follow them.
And then you like turned.
I went and turned. My neighbors like, don't go. They told me not to go and shit like that. And they're just like, oh, let's wait. I had the cops come in here. And it ended up being like a whole issue and shit. But I ended up having homeowners insurance and I got all my shit back. But it was just like one of those where it's like... To be all right, I wasn't scared. I didn't feel afraid at the time because, like...
You had the adrenaline pumping.
I had the adrenaline pumping. I was just, like... I was more mad that they fucking came in my house.
It's, like, violating.
I felt like it's like, yo, I'm sitting on the floor. Like, what the... I don't even have that much shit for y'all to come steal. Like, yo, go steal someone who got money and shit. At that time, I was, like, dead broke. Like, I was working at UPS store. I just got the house. My car broke down, so I couldn't work at UPS anymore. I was
what did they steal from you? Like a few dollars and your leftovers?
They didn't even take none of my money. They literally they took what? Because that was the second time my house got broken into. The first time they took my TV, and I was in there, and I think I got set up by one of my neighbors. Which after a while, like now that I think about it, makes more sense.
It's interesting too, because I feel like when you're like in a broke position, you're probably spending time around broke people.
Oh yeah.
So that it becomes more like prevalent in your reality. Like people around you are just like trying to get something. I think we talked about this before though. Yeah. It's like they don't have the abundance of wealth in a sense, and not in like a, way, like in a superior way, but like they literally want a TV or they want money because they need to buy something else or whatever.
And it's just one of those, they get put in those desperate situations. They don't.
But it's what we were saying. It's like it's just, I think some people, we see that a lot now in society. People living in a fantasy, like that's real. Like you just told me stories where this happened on multiple occasions. Like people will resort to taking something from you if they don't have it and they feel like they can get it from you.
Yeah, and if they feel like it's like easy or it's like an easier chance to get them working, trying to make money to make it and shit like that. And it's like everybody wants to come up with that quick lick.
And sometimes they're just not right in the head too. Yeah. Because I feel like if they were so, and that could be for many reasons. Yeah. Because if you're able to use some deductive reasoning, you can just like, you might not be in that position. It's like, because then it's like, I can work hard. I could get 2 jobs. I could get 3 jobs. I could get a shitty job, but it's a job. Yeah. And I could get 2 of those. And I could, for 2 months, I could not fucking have a day off, right? Yeah. And I could work doubles and I could do what I got to do. And you'll get through it. You know what I mean? And then you can get some footing. And then with that, you might be able to have like a little extra money to like, kind of upgrade something to kind of go forward. And I think a lot of people just don't maybe have those wits about them, and I think the ones who do.
Yeah, and they're usually people that end up being successful and like get through things like that. Yeah, but it's just crazy because I think nowadays everybody, since with social media, they want instant gratification. They want things right now and there. They don't want to work for it, and they don't want to put the effort because they might not get it, and they feel like, yo, I can this is shit's right there. I can just fucking go grab it and just take it, and they don't really give a fuck. It's
such a short-sighted view. Yeah, because there's nothing more to be gained from it. Like it's almost like cocaine in real life.
Yeah, it's like you get the hit. It's like, all right, I need some more. Give me more and more.
Yeah. But it's like you could almost replicate, not quite, but the natural feelings of like maybe what something like cocaine might emulate via happiness, fulfillment, purpose,
dopamine, and shit like that.
And you can still get those things in a healthy, sustained way by just being a good person and every day waking up, trying your best, challenging yourself, challenging those around you, inspiring, being inspired, being humble enough to learn or, whatever. But like, I think that's a lot longer of a road.
A process. Like people don't want to put the effort
good for you.
To work.
You like the process.
Yeah, I love it. That the process is the best part.
It's the process is the only thing that's real, really.
Yeah, because like, I mean, even with tattooing, like once you finish the tattoo, is like how much like you have invested in the tattoo once it leaves the store. Like you never see it again. Like maybe you'll get a heel picture if they're like they kind of like they're in the area and shit.
Unless you like tattoo a chick's back piece and you're proud of it, and then you wind up marrying her.
Yeah. That usually works out.
I didn't do that, by the way. My wife gets tattooed from good tattoo artists. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It's like, don't put me out like that.
Nah, because I'm gonna wind up tattooing her arm. It's gonna be the first big piece I do on her, because she always gets that. She collects from people that do like more neo-traditional.
Oh, so she like the bowl line.
But I think it just fits her skin tone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. She's a little,
because they're like more like muted down tones
and simplified, but not like traditional. You know.
Yeah, it's like that little high end, like in between illustrative, between traditional tattoos.
Yeah,
and I mean, I actually prefer that because I like
that stuff.
I like seeing like different styles. Like I'm not that type where I only want to do this type of style. Like I'm with that. I like to like, even if I try to attempt it, I want to be able to attempt it where I'm like proficient and it looks pretty good. And then and a big way how I improved in tattooing was trying these different styles and picking up something from it in the application sense. Yeah, because I feel like once you understand application in the sense all over, you can kind of do anything you want with tattooing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Can you pack black? Can you pull line? Can you blend color? Can you pack?
Can you make something soft in there? Can you make a good transition from one color to another?
Can you tighten things? Can you loosen? Because then there's like technical tattoo application, but then there's also just like art application, like out of focus, tight, not focus.
And there's another reason when I do a lot of pieces, I kind of keep my grouping and needles based on where I want the area of focus. So like if it's something in the general area and it was like a lot of tight details and stuff like that, I'm using smaller mags. I'm using like round shaders and shit like that. And when I get to the liner, I'll start using the 17, 27 or like I recently.
Yeah, it's hard for me to achieve an out of focus effect with a round shader.
Yeah, you can't do that through the back. You need a kind of different like grading, I guess, like
it's just like it's like less possible. So it's like you're putting a restriction. How can I tighten something when I have a huge needle? Yeah. So I have no choice but to keep it loose
on there. And it's like, and I don't like things that have like because it's almost like you're kind of adding contrast aside from just value and hues.
Well, you're adding like a physical visual contrast.
Yeah, like with like texture, because you can do something that's very like sharp, rigid, like metallic.
And then you want to contrast it with something
smooth, soft, maybe some clouds or something like that. And that visually has that contrast on there.
I always said that too. I think, in my opinion, a good piece of art, or at least I should say more, maybe probably just a tattoo. Yeah. Tattooing is very unique from all art, I think, kind of.
Because it's based on like you're putting like 2D images on 3D in space. So you're kind of trying to fit that area to look good. And I feel like the best tattoos are ones where it kind of accentuates the area that's at. Yeah. So it's like if you're doing like if like maybe a sleeve, you have something where like you have like the whole things there and you walk away like 10, 20 feet and you still can kind of have a very like even a rudimentary visual aid on there. Like, that, to me, that's
I always tell people that you should be able to identify the tattoo really well, and it should blow you away from 10 to 20 feet away. And then if you want to step in, you can view it and see more nuance like at another layer.
And it's funny because like sometimes in painting it'll be kind of a little bit different. Like you have like images where like there's certain type of paintings where you can like they're visually like appealing from a distance. Yes. But when you get to there, they're kind of almost hard to read. Like sloppy, it's hard to read, but it's like. And like it was like a painting my mom had like from somebody in there.
You see it a lot.
Yeah, I seen it on there, and I was just like, I would look at it, but it's like, yo, this looks like so messy. But when I walk like 10 feet away, it looks like a fucking beautiful scene.
That's why I think tattooing is so unique, because you actually almost need to achieve both.
Yeah.
And then you also need to consider the person viewing it is always going to be like seeing it like this. So if you just keep it so loose where it's viewed only from 20 feet away, you're almost going to not like
you can almost put like if you look at yourself, like even with this tattoo I got from Jacob Sheffield, like all I see is that guy, he's fucking awesome. I actually have him do the rest of the arm, but like I only see is this part on there, and like this part is like one of my favorite parts is this like little bit of the root that's on there, and I just like how he added all that texture and in there, and it looks so real. And like my favorite part to look at, I forget what the fuck top part looks like most of the time, because that's all I see. And so sometimes when I try to do like a piece like that, a sleeve, I kind of try to take account to what the people are going to see on there, where they're going to look at every day, and maybe make that area kind of interesting, so when they see it, they that's what they see, because that's their vision of the tattoo.
So many weird angles to consider. Even like the fact that like someone needs to appreciate and maybe recognize the art from while it's moving. Like 9 out of 10 times when someone's observing your tattoos, you're probably moving.
You're sitting there moving on there, and you could like, it kind of blurs up or anything like that.
So it's like, but like, can you still identify it? Or it's like But then it's like at the same time, it's like, who cares, I guess, as long as like somebody likes it. It's like, so there's just a lot more to it than like other art forms.
Yeah.
Not to mention like the longevity or like, you know, somebody's laying there and breathing and bleeding. And,
and then having to go through it and shit.
Yeah. Wait, I just said breathing, bleeding, breathing. And then I don't know. Who knows? Someone could be fucking, high as fuck while you're tattooing. Like, it's like there's all these like elements that are unknown. It kind of creates like makes you like a little bit interesting. Like even just being a tattoo artist, I feel like you have like you're blessed with like this understanding of people's depth.
Yeah.
Of like, and you're always dealing with people when they're very vulnerable. So there's like
almost like a therapy type sense to it.
Yeah, there's like a therapy type sense to it for sure. But like also just like like I was tattooing some chick in like the back of her calf and she was laying fucking face first into a massage bed or whatever. And I'm tattooing her and she's tensing up and like rightfully so because we're like 10 hours into the tattoo. And then I'm just like, all right, we're going to take a break now. And she gets up and there's like pieces of the bed cover, like the drape sheet,
it's all
ripped off and it's like sticking to her face. And there's like makeup, like she was just crying like at prom with like her makeup dripping down her face. And it's just like this person is in like a real state of disarray. Like just got beat down and I'm just dragging a 17 magazine around the fucking knee ditch. But I'm just doing what I got to do. And, you know, and then they just like get up and look at me and it's just like, they look like the Joker when he's sad. Like just, and it's like, I'm making art. I'm literally just trying to stay in the pocket like a quarterback in the Super Bowl. Like just sitting there trying to do what I know how to do best. And this person's just going through it, like dying. But I mean, I understand exactly because when I got my head tattooed, it was like the worst fucking pain. But what's interesting about it is like, you're still trying to be an artist the same way Michelangelo was and shit. But he was like, I mean, granted, he had to mix his own pigment from mixing berries and insects.
And we got to deal with people moving. Yeah, it's like a moving canvas.
Yeah. Or maybe breathing while you're tattooing their lungs. Or maybe fucking farting because they just ate Mexican food. Who knows? I'm just saying there's like these weird elements. Like,
so much.
Makes it very unique when it comes to like art.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like you're trying to just like be as precise as you can in certain areas, and then usually is the part where you need to be precise at is usually where they start to move. And I feel like it's always at those points like that.
Why is that, I wonder? You think it's because we wait to do those precise parts till later, or do you think that it's because they sense that we got a little more gentle and they think they can move more now because you're doing something less important, because it seems like you're doing something less
I think a little bit of both on there.
Yeah. Because when you're like working background with a mag, you're doing it efficiently because it's like, I want to say for me, backgrounds are like my favorite thing to do because I can just like, I shut away.
Yeah, like all the more the points you have to kind of pay attention, kind of.
I do what I want.
Yeah, it's not like you're just looking there, going back and forth and trying to get to that essence of what you're trying to see on there. Like there is like, once I hit the background, it's not based on what the design is. It's based on what I see or what I feel. Because
not to interrupt you, but I feel like I just sparked a thought in my head about that because the last few tattoos I did, I started to try. Here's my new thing, like the challenges we talked about, like where you're trying to like go to figure out a new whatever. As I'm doing the whole tattoo, I'm trying to bring background energy into everything. You know what I mean? And that's like almost for me feels like, wow, like that. It feels more expansive. Like, because it's like, wait a minute. If I've been doing backgrounds and people keep emailing me because they're like, I like the way you do like space. Well, it's like, I never looked at a picture of space.
Yeah. It's just more so what you felt cool. And what looks right at that point.
In fact, I started to like it less when people were asking me because I'm like, I just did that to anything because it's just what I did. I looked at no picture.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what if I just do that for like the whole tattoo? That's like where I'm starting to get interested in now.
I'm kind of like, I see that whole point on there because like a lot of times where, like I was saying, I would try to do like, all right, I'm trying to replicate exactly what I see on there. And
it's almost like you're afraid to trust what you already know.
Yeah. And then like now it's like, all right, I need to just like stop fucking doing that shit and just like kind of go how I feel. Like even with backgrounds, I try to use positive negative relationships and values and colors and shit. So it's like if it's like a dark edge, I put like lighter tones in behind it and shit like that. Just
which is kind of interesting too, because if you were to look at like reality and nature, sometimes like an edge could be like behind it. Like say it was something and then there's a tree. like I feel like the values could be closer than sometimes we exaggerate them.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's what is like really cool about tattooing, and I feel like those are actually traditional
like idea. What is I learned it from what's like Guy Atchison reinventing the tattoo book and shit.
Yeah, that's just good tattoo practice.
Yeah.
But if you were to like make like a, you know, like scholar or whatever, like a like school type of painting, like traditionally trained to do it, you might not exaggerate those values so hard. But when you're dealing with the skin, I feel like it's same when people say your colors are bright. It's like, well, it's not that the color's so bright as much as there's just black around.
Yeah, I mean, everything I do when I'm there, I try, because a lot of times when I first started doing portraits, I try to replicate as much as I see, and then now I'm trying to do it where it has more contrast on it.
Yeah,
where it's like, you can see it farther away, have more. Because I felt like once I started
traditional
adding,
principles. It's traditional tattooing applied to a non-traditional style.
And I think what happens is when people first started doing portraits and realism, they didn't really have those like principles like a longevity.
Well, they didn't bring those tattoo.
Yeah. And then a lot of times they didn't have like the amount of colors that we have now that can kind of like, or I can add more value and like this is all.
Or it was just the wrong guy doing it.
Yeah. And then
because like, you know, the guy who would have been like a true portrait artist, forget about tattooing, who understands portrait. It was just the tattoo guy
trying to do portraits.
Yeah. But now it's like the guy or gal that is a portrait artist is just like, wait, I know how to do it with this tool.
Yeah, and now I can kind of like emphasize on there. And then I've been trying to do lately like line work in my fucking pieces, like even with the real. I like started doing this like red split face shit where I do kind of almost like tribal on there, and like I used to fucking hate tribal in my animation.
But the thing is, you did tribal, right? Yeah, that's so cool, because like if you never did tribal, then you wouldn't understand. So that's what I always that's almost what I want to tell anyone who's like learning how to tattoo. It's like, go through the motions. Yeah. Like if you learn how to tattoo from me,
you're only gonna do one thing, and you're gonna do the same exact.
You're not. No way. Yeah. You're gonna do. I want you to tattoo people who want a symbol.
Yeah.
I want you to tattoo everything. That's crazy. You could come into my space, which is like transcendent of walk-in, and bitch, you better tattoo a kanji symbol in my space.
It's funny because like when I first started tattooing, I wanted to tattoo so bad. Like anything came in, I wanted to do it. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck if it was like, yo, some tribal or this. I just wanted to tattoo, and I want to get on there. And a lot of people,
it's hours, it's reps.
Yeah,
it's pack, it's line, it's like, what the fuck, man? What are you going to do? Just paint it? Like, because we're talking about it a lot today, the journey. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? Just jump to like, you know, that's where I feel like people get delusional. Like, you literally can't replicate experience. Like,
no, you can't. And a lot of artists now, they're like, I'm just going to do straight portraits and this is all I'm going to do.
I hate that.
And it's just like, bro, you're just going to understand one way to tattoo, but you're not going to understand like the foundation about
what
tattooing.
If there's an economy collapse?
Yeah.
And you only tattoo portraits, but now all of a sudden you just need to survive.
Yeah, and you need to do these small tats.
Well, you know what? I'll go into a fucking street shop and I'll open a street shop and tattoo dragons and kanji symbols, and like that doesn't worry me.
Yeah.
I promise I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like saying you want to be a car mechanic and you're going to go work for like the pit crew at NASCAR.
And that's all you're going to do.
And then you're going to I know how to fix NASCAR, but like you don't even know how to fix a Toyota Corolla.
You don't even know how to change the oil on that shit. It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how to operate a drill to take off a fucking wheel real quick.
Yeah.
Like you ain't a real mechanic. You know what I mean? But you should be. Like if I break down on the side of the road driving like a fucking dirt bike, you should be able to pull over and like you just understand like fucking
how to change basic things on there. And like even with like when I first started, I started on coils too, and I understand the whole principle. And to me, it's like that whole principle, like how it works, is so interesting to me.
Very interesting.
And
well, because you said you like planes and things like that, so I'm picking up vibes that you probably just like how like mechanical things work, maybe.
Yeah, to me it's like the whole like it came from a fucking fucking bell, school bell and shit like that.
Yeah.
And on there, and then like understanding like the concept of like having that spring on there that has give compared to like a rotary that kind of goes to the motion where it stops at one point.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of issues I see with a lot of people now. They jump straight to rotaries. They're ripping a lot of skin because they're just like trying to keep it so tight, and they didn't understand. A lot of times when people did line work, they kind of like overstretched, but they had the give from the fucking the spring on there, so it's not like as traumatic to the skin. Where it's like kind of rip it now, and I feel like now it just goes to a certain depth, and it's like a lot more trauma to the skin sometimes.
You know, I don't know if this is true, but I pictured it in my brain like I tried to like almost plot the graph like with an XY axis of a rotary versus a coil.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, a rotary machine always has the same downward thrust.
Yeah.
No matter how the volts. Because if you put it at like low volts versus high volts, it's just the speed.
Yeah.
But the actual thrust power stays the same.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Whereas with a coil, when you're at a lower volt, because of the spring, the actual distance traveled of the needle is not only slower, but also less powerful.
Yeah.
So the faster it gets, also the more powerful it gets. So it's more of like a curve.
Yeah, because like on that, it's just electromagnetic. It's like pulling it in there, and then once the stronger that pull is, it's gonna pull it more violently,
and then it goes back up
down, and it breaks down, it comes back.
Yeah. Like so the faster you get, it's also hitting harder.
Yeah.
But a rotary machine, like a Cheyenne pen or something, it's actually traveling at the same like
I guess the amount of force is in it, just how fast it's going into it.
And it's also on a wheel, so it's traveling the same. The high and the low, max and min distance traveled is actually the same, even at 8 volts versus 18 volts.
Yeah.
But with a coil machine, that's not the case, because the harder it comes down, the harder it goes up. So I almost feel like when you're putting the power up, you're getting like a longer throw, but it's also moving faster.
And it's using essentially like the fucking gravity and shit.
Yeah, like but then I guess that's when you could tune it and have like a tighter spring or whatever.
Yeah, or like loosen the spring so it's more give.
And I'm gonna be a liar if I say that I spent a lot of time using them. I used them very early on in my career, and then I actually went on to buy a few more later just because I thought it was cool and I was being a little bit of a hipster. Oh. And I'm like, let me get some coil machines just because, again, like you, I like tinkering with things.
Yeah, and to me, that's just interesting. Like
at that point, I did.
Yeah, because like I started off with like a fucking, I think the first coil machine was like a Mickey Sharp shader, and then I had like a Paco Rollins liner. And then
I bought a bunch of Keith B Machine Works.
Oh yeah, those are pretty good too.
And I bought them. I sold them like less than a year later because what I was doing in tattooing, wasn't symbiotic to those machines. Yeah. It just didn't work.
And it just very like, I like how they hit, but just so efficiently having like you have to have like 10, 15 machines for amount of cartridges or like shit I would use before.
I feel like at some point in my career in the future, I might even like try that again for fun.
Well, I wouldn't mind breaking out a fucking liner to do some lines. Like every once in a while, I purchase like what's those Dan Cubans?
Yeah, I had 2 of them and I sold them, and I have 1 still at home.
It's funny because like I feel like every other week I'm changing how I tattoo, like to try and improve and see what works for me, what doesn't work for me and shit like that. So it's like, sometimes I'll like have the skin tight, or sometimes I'll compress the skin where it has like almost like a concave where the tension is tight but not as tight on there. So it's like every other week I'm like changing how I approach, how I'm applying machines. Sometimes I'll run it slower, sometimes I'll run it faster, and maybe have the needle in more, or based on what.
I feel like sometimes I do that within the tattoo. Sometimes like I'll shorten the throw because I don't want it to be so harsh. Like I just want to like lay it in a little bit.
And they're soft, like almost like if I'm doing like a portrait, and I want to kind of maybe almost like underlayer.
And you want to have a few takes at it.
Yeah,
so like I don't want to commit this hard because I try to go deep saturation. So sometimes I just hit in what I want, boom, 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 like and then sometimes it's just like let's dust in the cheek of this kid.
And they're make a little bit in there, a little fade.
And I can hit it again a little bit maybe, and like later even if I want.
No, even those I'll even when I want to do something like that, like even with round shaders, I'll push the skin together. I'll push the skin together and I'll kind of bounce it off the skin.
Opposite of stretching.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost like I guess like concave or not concave, converse. It's like where it's coming up like this. Pitch like that where it has like tension, but not as much.
You're almost squeezing the skin to create like an arc, but you're also giving like more density and elasticity to the skin, so that you can still tattoo with the same technique and tension that you normally would, but the skin physically rejects it. Yeah. So I do the same thing as you, but in a different way, I guess, because I then just like become a spring. Yeah. With my arm, and I like back it off and just like loosen up. But you're like almost squeezing the skin so you can actually act the same, but the skin don't take it the same.
Like I'll do that, and then sometimes it depends if I'm using either a mag or a round. If I'm using a round shader, I'm almost like bouncing off the skin like this. I'm kind of like my hand's not. I don't put my hand down on the skin. I'm kind of like putting it in there because I can feel in the skin if it's like if it's too much like pressure or anything like that, and I kind of like don't like to feel it when I'm doing a round shader, so I can be in there longer. So I'll do it there, or even if I'm doing like mag work, I'm almost like bouncing it up like this, like I'm keeping my hand in the air and not pushing too much on there.
You're like
feathering in there, where I'll have the needles in, I'll maybe have the needles out a little bit longer, and I won't put the pressure down. I won't put pressure on the skin.
I think that's a big growth period I learned in tattooing. It's like when I first started, it's like, oh, you'd be asking people like, what's the depth of your needle or something, and it's like you learn the longer you get into this stuff, and it becomes like second nature, and like you start being comfortable with how you do it. You start realizing there is no needle depth. It's like all of them.
Yeah, because essentially
sometimes I change it. Like during a tattoo, I'm constantly changing the depth of my needle.
Yeah, and I feel like the biggest thing
that's like almost part of your brush.
Yeah, it's like you're sitting there bringing it out. It's like, all right, you can feel it in the skin, like how you want to
bringing it out, bringing it in, and then changing the needle itself, and then changing the depth of that.
Yeah,
and then every time I change a cartridge, sometimes I reset the depth because I know what I'm about to do.
Yeah,
like changing your depth. That's why I like the Injecta.
Yeah,
I really like the Injecta, the Flight with the battery on it or whatever. I forget what it's called, the Flight X something, because you just flip it upside down and there's electric depth.
Oh shit, that's fucking cool.
So it's kind of cool. So, I'm not trying to pitch them. I'm not even sponsored by them. I'm just saying I like that because I don't have to like unscrew anything.
Yeah,
because I am changing my depth so much, which I think is like a kind of weirdly innovative thing, because a lot of times you got to like loosen something.
Yeah, like if you had to do that shit with a coil, you would have to unloosen the grip.
Yeah, I guess exactly. I guess with like a Cheyenne machine, it has you could spin it.
Yeah, spin on there. The same thing with the FKs
click. Yeah.
On there.
So yeah, you're right. I guess that, but I almost feel like the adaptive throw feature.
Oh yeah,
might almost have been like a good machine advancement.
Oh, it was
more than the battery. Because the battery
agree.
is a luxury, but being able to change your
to me that's more important. Like I have like a couple FK iron machines, and I used a couple of the Exos and the Flux. But my favorite machine was their Zion because they had that mechanical give on it, where you can kind of adjust it. It's a little bit impractical because you have to take the base out to put it on there. But
but when you could do it on the fly,
it's fucking amazing.
But that machine couldn't do that, I think.
No, it couldn't.
Yeah,
it's like you had to take the grip off and do it.
Machines that had it on the fly changed the way I tattoo.
Yeah,
because it's like we were talking, like I could just like shorten up the throw and kind of play, or like lengthen it and just you know, just
get it in there.
Yeah, so it's like I could just go, you know, but with the Inkjet, it's like and I just decide like how I want. No, really, and it's like cool. Like I think now I don't think I could have a machine that I can't just quickly. But I was always on that though, because even before I was using like other machines, and I would wrap the knob.
Oh yeah.
And put like barrier film and tape around it, and I'd be like, as I'm tattooing, like loosening it,
swapping
and you start getting so good at that too. So I guess we were always kind of doing that, probably even with coils and shit. But it's just like
it's just a little bit different on there.
It's like workflow. It's like using like a fucking a shortcut command of Photoshop versus like going to like file resolution,
find down there and all that.
You know what I mean? Like,
that is crazy how they're going with machines now, and you can do all that.
Yeah. What's next? What do you think will be next advancement with that kind of shit? Because like we're seeing the AI on the art side, but what's the next advancement on the technical side?
I mean, I don't even know, because I don't even think I'm not even too worried about like robots starting to tattoo and shit like that.
I'm not worried about that at all.
Like I think that shit's like you're not gonna. The thing is that will be like something too perfect, and it'll be like. Exact, like
I'm not threatened by that at all.
Yeah, because I think it's like, to me, what makes sometimes a tattoo is the human error in it, because human error kind of defines what the style is going to be, what it will look like.
We're fighting against that right now.
Yeah,
like, because you know why? Because we're two personalities sitting here having a cool conversation, and you have a story, I have a story, you have like an experience, and you know I'm interested in hearing, and I'm sure people listening would be, you know. So it's like. When I get a tattoo, like, you know, before we got here, we were in the liquor store, and the guy asked me, like, oh, why a baboon? Like, literally, that just happened today.
Yeah.
And you know what I told him? I don't know, because my homie wanted to tattoo it. So, yeah, I'm going to go get tattooed by a robot. And granted, I'm a tattoo artist, so I'm maybe a little biased.
Yeah.
But I didn't even care that this is on my arm.
Yeah.
I just cared that I hung out with my friend, learned stuff from him,
and got some information. And the thing
is,
let
him do what he wanted.
I feel like when people first start getting tattoos, they feel like they need to have a meaning behind it. It has to be personal. But the longer I feel like I've been getting tattooed, the more it's almost like a gallery where I want to get art from a specific person.
For sure.
And I want them to do what they want to do because that's going to be the best work. And it's more like you're collecting art instead of just like getting things for yourself and shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly it. So it's like, if that's the mindset, and I see that mindset happen with people that are not a tattoo artist like you or I, just somebody that I happen to tattoo that, you know, maybe even knows nothing about art. Yeah. But they came, hung out with me, saw a friend of mine nearby, got tattooed by me, got tattooed by my friend, started to really understand that how like cool that is to just collect that art. Yeah. I see that happen with all kinds of people. So why would those same very people who eventually surrender this control want to go get tattooed by a machine?
Yeah, and it'll be too I don't know, something about,
I feel like that's just doesn't even worry me.
Nah, not at all. And like, even if they did,
because they could probably make a machine to paint. They could make a machine to spray a wall with like a mural. Like that already exists. But why is that not taken off? Like we would see this robotics take off in other art fields. Yeah, like you could go to Home Goods
and just not having to, like, they'll grab wherever you need when you need it.
You could decorate your house with art from Home Goods. You literally, you could go down to, like, you know, IKEA and buy the art at the end, you know, when you go through that fucking maze.
What, there with all the fucking pictures in
and
there?
You get at the end and there's all those pictures. You know that room.
Yeah.
So, but you don't buy that art.
No, not at all.
Of course you don't. Yeah, why?
Because it's not personal.
It's like fucking generic.
Yeah, it's exactly. Like, yo, anybody can have that shit.
Yeah. So it's like, why the fuck would you get tattooed by a robot?
Yeah. And I feel like there probably will be some people be like, I don't care.
The people who buy art in IKEA.
Yeah, or the people that come in like, I want this tattoo.
Just but like those are the people we want. I might buy one of the robots.
Yeah.
Just to take care of them.
And they make money.
While I'm
Shit.
While I'm tattooing the cool art on the person who appreciates it.
And I feel like sometimes artists are like, some people get threatened by it, but it's like you just said, you can get in that and make that money and like have like a part where people who want to get that shit, because it's like the biggest thing I realize, there's so many fucking people in this world and there's constantly new people coming in. So there's not going to be a shortage of people wanting to get tattooed in any type of style or any type of thing.
You're think about this. And I just thought about this for the first time as well. All your potential clients are all the potential people that exist.
Yep.
You have the only job where your market is literally every human. Yep. Think about that, actually. Because when you're selling toasters, your only market is
people who eat toast.
Yeah, but wait, then again, every person could eat toast.
They could. That is true.
Wait, maybe I'm just dumb, bro. Oh,
no, man. But does every person want to eat toast?
What am I saying? But they don't. But not every person wants a tattoo either.
That is true. We're just running circles here.
Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, but but no, really though, I guess it's with everything. But really, your clients. I know I'm kidding about it, but really every person can want a tattoo if you think about it, right? Like literally, like every type of it's not really like I guess what I'm getting at is it's not every type of person like is in the market for like eating at a luxury restaurant.
Some people want that fast, or even like the mom and pop shops, which sometimes I like those better than the fancy ass restaurants.
Yeah, but like for someone doing a cool tattoo, I feel like everyone kind of wants that. You know, I don't know, maybe they don't. But I always say to people who don't want tattoos, they're like, I don't have any tattoos, or I don't want a tattoo. I'm like, well, you're the most unique person in the room.
There you go.
Yeah. You are, like, literally.
It's such a crazy reversal of like roles from maybe early 60s, 50s, when only very few people wanted tattoos and they didn't like it, at least in Japan and shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, even just like generational, it's like always people like, oh, what are you going to do when you're old with these tattoos? And it's like,
I'm going to be old with some
It's such like a weird fucking view, right?
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. I look at it sometimes when you get certain tattoos. Like I have a lot of tattoos I don't like. Yeah. And a lot of times I like them not because I don't like them. It's because I like the experience, or it brings me back to a time period when I remember when I got it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like
so it's not even that you don't like them. It's like you don't like the art isn't at its peak.
Yeah.
You like them for other reasons.
Yeah. Like I have like fucking some small script that my homie did on me that we traded tattoos when we were scratching, and it says no shit happens, no remorse, and they're like the worst fucking letter. Yeah. And the guy wasn't even a tattoo artist, but I fucking love it. Every time I look, I laugh
because it's cool. Yeah. I did my first tattoos in my fucking school. Like in the back of the fucking classroom with a bottle of India ink that I stole from the cabinet and a sewing needle that I brought in.
No, that's
and I just like was tattooing myself and shit. And then I had like a smiley face and I wrote Bob on my fucking thigh. You know,
the crazy things that we've done. And it probably brings the memory to like, oh, when I was a kid, it's like.
When you start realizing how finite life is and that when you were a kid, you were in such a hurry not to be. And you're doing things like poking yourself with a tattoo needle because it's
just want to see. I mean, I feel like that's just us trying to explore and like figure out things and learn things. And same thing with like as a kid, like you jump in a puddle and you're kind of learning about like forces, even though you're not trying to.
Yeah. So and it's so pure, and I think we touched upon that like a few times talking. Yeah. It's like, you know, you're just inquisitive, you're trying things, and it's like. Yeah, like that for me, it's like I don't want to erase that memory. Like the fact that shit's tattooed on my thigh is like even more cool.
Yeah, it's like now I see it back. It's like, yo, this one time I did this, and I remember every time I look at it.
And thank God because now I'm here.
Yeah, and and it's crazy because like when I first started tattooing, like I was tattooing just a lot of like frat brothers, like outside my fucking on my couch and shit like that.
Those frat brothers probably gave you a lot of reps.
Well, that's what the thing is. If it wasn't for those frat brothers, I probably wouldn't be wearing a tattoo because like when I first started scratching at my house, I was just tattooing like friends, and I was like once a month or something like that.
And then the frat
boys like, yo, let me get something. Yeah. Even though I was trash as fuck, and like doing terrible tattoos, and I was just like tattoo, and it was for the least amount of money, but the amount of time that got me to want to love tattooing was because I was doing that, and then for me to start like putting on there, I got hit up by Chico to do all my apprenticeship. He's like, yo, he asked me if you're working shop. I was like, no. And he got there, and I did my first. My apprenticeship was like a month and a half.
It's so interesting. I'm just I got distracted there for a second because as you were telling me that story, I just started visualizing you as a frat boy.
Oh yeah.
So I was like listening to you tell me that story,
and it's like,
and I like you morphed into like a frat boy, like 20 years younger, you know,
when I still had hair and shit. I don't even think I had like back then I didn't even have a beard. I had like a chin strap and shit like that. Yeah,
hell yeah. I had a chin strap.
Yeah, like I had those.
I'm from New Jersey, dude.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's funny? Because I say this all the time. The Northeast, or like specifically New York, New Jersey, is actually more connected with South Florida than a lot of other places.
Well, because a lot of people from New York kept out and immigrated to South Florida. It's very similar. Because like Florida's weird because like
there was a lot of bro guys. You know. People laugh at me. I had the chin. I had a blowout. With the
blowout, yes.
We used to go down to the Jersey Shore, but you were probably going down to like South
Beach and shit like that.
Yeah, it was like the same kind of thing, but there was like that like little Guido-y, like, you know, like we used to wear Armani Exchange, you know, like
that's definitely because like in South Florida before whole Wynwood popped off. And shit.
It wasn't like artistic.
No, it wasn't that. Like when you went out, you had to wear like dress shoes, dress pants.
If you didn't roll up to a club with a couple girls, they don't.
Oh, you're not going in. Yeah, you had to be a ratio 2-to-1, two girls for one guy.
It's crazy how that shit's still stuck in me sometimes here. Like I'll be going out to like a bar here, and I'll be like saying to my girl, "Can I wear a hat in there?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?"
It's like what?
And I go in there, and there's kids with backpacks on and
wearing
hats,
shorts
with flip flops. And like when I was young, if you went out after dark, you wore a button down and you put on some like shoes and stuff like that. Like it was just what it like.
That was the club life.
It was like the drip, like and then you needed a couple chicks to get in.
Yeah.
And now there's like this shit, like there's like people there with tank tops and fucking sweating.
Going there.
It's like they have like camelbacks at the club, you know?
Drinking on there.
You know what I mean? Back then it was like you were like going out. Like I even went to like you go to the cleaners, get your shit fucking crisp,
clean and shit. They'll judge your night based on if you have a clean haircut or what you're wearing.
Bro, this shit. I only have long hair and a beard like this because I spent so many of my years like that. That I almost like repressed not being.
It's like funny because like when I went throughout because I had a beard since almost like my sophomore year in high school. Like I was growing facial hair and shit, and I had a full beard. But throughout all high school, I was like every week I would have a haircut, chin strap, or a thin beard or some shit like that, or a goatee. It would constantly change. It's when I started tattooing, I got kind of lazy.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna just trim the top, let it grow long, and just I was to a point where it got like this long. I was like, let me see how long you can get. Let me get how long you can get. I had it up to.
Could get that long.
It probably can. Like I had it up to here.
But my problem is I always picket it.
Oh, that's the thing.
So I pull it out. And shit,
I was like brushing a lot with like brushes that weren't good for it, and it'll pull there. And then the first time
so to grow it out, you actually have to follow some guidelines.
Yeah, you have to have a conditioner, like the beard wash and shit like that.
And you got to make sure you don't lose any.
Yeah, because if you use like a regular brush you use for hair, even though with the little balls that feel better, and I liked it. But fucking, I noticed
you need like the hairbrush, like a horsehair one.
Yeah, horsehair one. Because then when you have it long, you'll have it thick and it'll look good. But when you start doing that, it starts to look like.
Are you going to grow that again, or you're cool now? You're taking a break. You had that shit for a long time.
I had it for a minute. I was even a bearded social club in Miami where we're doing chapters and all that shit. And I was like, when I had it then, I was like, I have to let it grow long because
why did you shave your beard then?
Well, first of all, because of COVID fucked it up. And like my beard, I started looking homeless all the time because my beard was coming in like this from the face mask and shit. And I just felt like I got so tired of having a long beard. You didn't
want your whole identity to be defined by the beard.
And it was for a while.
Friend, so I had maybe that's a good point. I need to start because I had a friend who grew his hair and he was my friend since I'm a kid. Yeah. And he never had long hair before, and all of a sudden his hair was like my length, and like we'd go out and I like always like, yeah, it's cool. We're like, we've got this fucking hair. We're just like dope. And then he cut it. And it's because he got a new job. Yeah. He's not a tattoo artist. And he's like,
can't do whatever he wants anymore.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that stinks. And he's like, and then he said to me exactly that. He's like, yeah, but at the same time, I was starting to feel too identified by my hair. Yeah. So it's kind of like interesting because it's like, even I always pictured you as like the guy with the long beard, right? But now it's like I'm sitting here talking to you and that's not what you have. Yeah. And it's like you almost could like, it's almost like the beard is like a shield.
Yeah, it's like just holding me there.
Yeah, like I was just, the whole time I was knew your beard.
And the thing is, it was funny because
even when you got in my car, I didn't know you shaved your beard. And I was like, oh, like.
He was this guy. Yeah. Like, and a lot of people won't recognize me like with the, at first on there. Because like when I had the beard long, the first time I cut it and I was doing convention, it was like, people recognized me from the beard. And so when I was, because I started doing conventions from like 3 months into tattooing professionally. Mm-hmm. Like I did
you had it then. The beard.
I had it then because like that's when I was like, all right, I was going to school for engineering or for art at FIU. Mm-hmm. I was doing my apprenticeship and I was like literally driving from Broward County, which is like 45 minutes an hour away from Miami every fucking day. Right. Like back and forth.
How long was that commute?
It was. At first, it was like 45 minutes to an hour to go down, and I would go.
How many years did you make that commute?
At least 2 to 3 years.
I love hearing that because I one time I used to drive from where I grew up in a town of Lyndhurst, New Jersey, to upstate New York in a town called Warwick, and it was like an hour and 20 minutes every day, and I used to work there.
I had that happen to me. So
and I like hearing people say that because I feel like, and I know Mike Perry said he used to do something crazy like that, like an hour and a half a day. People, so many good tattoo artists that I've met told me they've done shit like that.
Yeah, because it's like that just shows like how much you really want it. Because like
that's where you need to go, and fuck it, I'll go.
Yeah, it's like I need to do it, and I was like, all right, I was driving every day, and for a minute it was only 45 minutes, and then when I was taking school and I got my degree, and I ended up eventually moving to Miami, and then I did whole Ink Master shit, and then
and we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about that. I don't know if you want to get into that.
I mean, I'm always like talking about stuff like
because
that
I know that Ink Master is filmed in. I know they portray it as New York, but it's filmed in Newark, New Jersey, correct? And that's funny because I'm from a town called Lyndhurst, which is a few, like I don't know, maybe 4 miles.
I think it was pretty close to there.
You know the town.
Yeah, I've driven past it. And stuff like that.
So you down Route 21 or whatever. Because you drove into Ink Master.
Well, because like not there, because like I've driven past like since I moved to Maryland. Mm-hmm. I go to New York here a lot, so I drive through there a lot.
And you probably get on Route 3 somewhere over there, East Rutherford and all that.
Yeah, so I've driven past there on there, but like when I did Ink Master, I was in Miami. So I flew up there, but it was like, I really didn't know too much about it.
And I'm from that side of Newark. So, I mean, I'm from where I'm from. When I first entered Newark, it's near where, like, because you guys were down by the river, I think, over there.
I think so, but to be honest,
that's crazy that they film it there, though.
No, I feel funny to me. And it's one big building. Well, now it's in Canada, from what I heard. It's in Canada and shit. But it was like
when you did it, it was Newark.
It was Newark. It was one big building. It was almost like, we lived upstairs. The room downstairs where they did critiques
was like a set.
It's set, but it was like they owned one big building.
But were all the sets in the building?
Yep. Yeah. Everything, like they had rooms for like fucking judges and all that shit in their little office.
And then they would film interviews in other rooms.
Yeah, and they have another room where
it was like a studio.
Essentially, it was one big studio on there, and then I thought it was really cool, but it was almost like it felt like a little mix between summer camp and prison. because like we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't leave anywhere from the building unless we did a flash challenge.
You can't even make a phone call.
You can. Like, the thing is, all right.
When you're filming,
you can't. So like when you wake up like at 6 a.m. and shit, they do your wardrobe, makeup, they put the mics on and shit like that, and then they fed us a lot. Like I fucking gained like 20 pounds when I was on that shit.
Good food?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you were in New Jersey. There's good food.
No, they catered breakfast.
Were you in Italian food?
Oh, I love Italian. I think I hate onion. I have a fucking phobia of onions. So it's like a lot of times I have to be very particular how I eat, but I love pasta. And
I know you're hanging out down in Newark. You know, I was thinking maybe they gave you like penne vodka or some shit.
No, they didn't really give us
chicken
too much.
Parmesan.
They gave us some fucking good ass chicken and shit like that. And then
but over there's a lot of in the Ironbound, a lot of Portuguese too.
Oh, no, they didn't give it nothing too fancy like that. It was more so it was close, but they brought us like we had a kitchen in there, full kitchen. So literally on my days off, I would cook and shit like that. I made meals for everybody.
And they stocked you with the ingredients, or you hit the grocers?
Everything. Well, because we couldn't go anywhere, so like anything we'll need.
So when you're off, you're bound to that house.
Yeah. Well, there was really no.
Was there like a back patio you can go get some sun?
Yeah, there was a little back patio,
like a courtyard.
Yeah, a little courtyard. It's not too big. It's
but you can't take a walk around the block. No.
No, you couldn't leave the building.
You can go in the yard.
You can go in. It's not in there because it's like on the top floor. It's like almost like a roof balcony.
But there was somewhere you could go outside.
Yeah, and you can.
Was there a hot tub or a pool?
No hot tub or pool, nothing like that.
So that's where you're saying it's a little bit like prison.
Yeah, it's like prison. We couldn't go anywhere.
So they didn't even have like. See, it'd be sick if they had that, but they had like a little. Like a pool built or like a hot tub.
That would be amazing.
And like maybe when you guys are off, they like let you kind of like let loose, but they probably want you to be stressed, right?
They want us to be stressed. They have literally so much alcohol in there. Like you couldn't smoke weed though. Couldn't smoke weed, do anything like that. They have so much alcohol, and like they.
So you're just how long are you there? 2 weeks?
Well, no, it's
total filming.
If you're total filming and you're there for like I guess you make it to the finale, you're there 2 months.
Wow.
I was there for a month. I made it like halfway.
You made it about halfway?
Halfway. I was there for 2 months and shit. But it was really cool in the sense where it's like we had one big ass room where all the guys were sleeping at. And it was almost felt like Tatoo summer camp with a lot of good artists. We would sit there and like chat and joke, but we didn't really have time to have like leisure time because it was like an all day thing and it was like every single day. And then the days that we did have off, technically off, where we're doing interviews. So interviews.
So
like
you never had like a full day off?
Nah, there was never a full day.
Maybe. And then the days you had were lighter. You just did interviews.
Yeah, just did interviews. You go in and they have.
For how long of the day?
It depends on how.
Dude, you interview, take a break, interview again, or you just do all yours at once?
Nah, it's so they'll do it like per every episode. So, but since I had the long beard and most of the time they had a green screen in the back,
your beard fucked with the
green. It fucked
screen.
it, so I couldn't do it. So I had to wait till later when they had a physical picture backdrop on there where I can do my interview. So they'll do like the first episode, and then they'll do it after you do the first episode. They'll come in.
It's funny you're like describing all this stuff to me. I'm not even kidding. I never seen this show.
No, it's crazy. Like everything's.
I'm not even saying that to be cool. I just genuinely never seen it. And honestly, I don't watch any TV or movies.
I don't either anymore. Like I'm more like I watch YouTube a lot. Like I'm on YouTube more than anything. I'm constantly watching shit to like learn how to do something.
Yeah, same.
Podcast.
I've been watching fucking tornado videos. Oh, yeah. I love like wild like weather, and I'm weird. Like I love that.
Those are pretty cool. I like to see like when it like has like snowstorms and shit like that. That's a big reason why I moved up north. I wanted to see snow because I didn't grow up on snow. Like the first time I saw snow was in New York. I mean, it wouldn't be too bad. Like I mean, I'm already in the snow right now.
yeah, you're out there. Yeah. But Maryland gets rocked with snow a little bit, right?
The last 2 years it didn't.
No, no. Maryland's like I think where we were more north from there, it's more.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more, but
you're like on the line where it dissipates a little. I think.
Yeah,
where you get it.
We get it on there, but the first year I drove up there, I drove up February 1st, 2021, I think. It was the first day I drove up there to go work over there at Damascus, and the day I drove there was a snowstorm, and that whole first 2 months I was there, it was snowing all the time. Like I had a Suburban on there, and I really didn't know how to drive in snow. I got stuck all the fucking time, but I thought it was such a cool atmosphere seeing the snow and like having all the trees being dead.
There's something to it.
It was cool because
I think especially if you didn't spend time growing up around it.
Yeah.
I think after me for like 32 or 3 years of like, maybe not all those years shoveling, but many of them shoveling and stepping in puddles. And
I think that part, if I had to do too much, that would suck.
You're late to work, but I think it would be cool as a novelty to vary your standard routine, as we talked of before. And that's how I feel now. Like when it's winter and it's like, 70 degrees, maybe randomly, like around Christmas time.
It's like 2 days, 50
it's not
degrees.
Always like, maybe there's a few 50s, and it even went down to 20 here for a short period of time, but then it went right back up to like 50, 60.
Yeah.
And everyone where I'm from is like freezing and like scraping their fucking windshield. I'm not like, for me, that was so cool.
Yeah. Like even because it was different. Because like when I lived in South Florida, it's only cold 2 days a year, essentially. And it's like 50, 60. But that 50, 60 feels so fucking cold.
Bro,
I'm
like already getting pussified out here. I'm wearing hoodies in 75-degree weather.
It's like shit.
If I was in New Jersey and it was 75 degrees,
I'd be wearing a tank top.
I would go to the beach.
Hell yeah.
I'll go fucking swimming. Are you kidding me? Yeah. But now I'm like actually out here. I'm not even kidding. I'm like literally... And me and my wife would make fun of people like, look at that. We saw a guy the other day with a vest and a hoodie on. And it was like fucking 80 degrees out. Like, what is he doing? But like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I almost don't. Maybe I wouldn't wear both, but I could almost go for that hoodie, right?
Yeah,
like,
it almost not too bad. It's like
it's almost, you almost start wearing it to protect yourself from the sun.
Yeah,
like it becomes like almost a thing.
Like the sun fucking killer. I fucking once I start getting tattooed, I stopped going to the beach and all that shit.
But I like it again because I've been listening to Huberman shit.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I like to get my face in the sun, but then I had like almost like a traumatic experience when I first started shaving my head. When I lived in Orlando, I went fishing with one of my frat brothers. He was like a big fisherman. So we drove to Tampa and we're fishing. He wakes up like early. We were there like at 4 a.m. when the sun came up to like 4. And it was the first time I shaved my head. I didn't wear a hat and I didn't understand about like putting sunblock on my head. And it was like, it was like the next day, like my head peeled like brat. Like too bad I had to call out for a week for work. And that's how bad it was.
Yeah, it's like I just think it's one of those things like it's just getting older.
Yeah,
it's like shit that I would have just went and got drunk and baked in the sun and got a little red
and been all right. Yeah.
Up. Now I'm like, I better protect my skin. And,
get in there.
Yeah, I got to get in there, and it's like, I need to make sure I drink the appropriate amount of water, and like you start realizing in sleep and all that stuff.
Oh, that's how important it is and shit. Like, and especially watching all those like health conscious like podcasts and shit like that. I realized I can only tattoo for so long if I don't if I have good health, and if I
so then you start realizing like it's almost like if you were a video game character and you like when you create a character you have like strength, ability, or like speed and like agility, and then it's like health. So it's like almost like to be a good tattoo artist, like say you're become tomorrow the best tattoo artist in the world, but at the expense of like everything about your health,
it's gone.
It's almost makes no sense. So it's almost like, you'll say you only have 100 points to spend. You almost need to put a little bit of it into health, and it might even take away a little bit of like
how good you are and shit, but it's gonna like you tattoo longer.
yeah, and actually be able to like show people how good you are because you're not gonna die.
Yeah, and I can imagine if you're that good and then your health goes to shit, you're not gonna be that good anymore.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You're not gonna be able to tattoo
and then
the
what
same.
Point is it all for? You can't even share that abundance with like your family or friends or something. So it's like that's the kind of shit you start paying more attention to.
Yeah, like I'm already trying to think out how other ways I can make money. Like if I want to do like I was very interested in watch a lot of videos about was like that Amazon FBA drop shipment and shit where you like have like products where you look at the price and then you get it Alibaba and you do for like there and you just make money.
Yeah, and then you go to Alibaba and you start buying it direct from them and like having them stock.
Send there.
I look down this rabbit hole.
I've been trying to think of some way I can make some money when I'm there.
I'm actually in the same boat, but what I'm finding is that like I almost think the same reason why you excelled in tattooing was because you had a love for it. Yeah. So I think it almost becomes more about finding something you love enough to do enough to then maybe if you don't think so much about the profit or the money, just like you probably do when you're tattooing, it comes.
Because I tell this a lot of people.
Because you just meant it.
I feel like you can always make money off something as long as you have that passion for it because you're going to get good at it.
So that's where I'm trying to expand maybe in business ways.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying to keep that in mind with whatever I get involved with. I want to carry that same passion to it so that I know it's like bound to succeed.
Because like in a way, it's like whatever you want to do and you need a passion for, you need a lot of time and effort to get good at it.
No matter what.
And it's a lot of hard work. But if it's something you really love to, it's not work. It's just like you're just doing it because you want to learn and you're generally interested into it.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about tattooing compared to like me studying aerospace engineering, Calc 1, 2, and 3, differential equation, thermodynamics. I got to a point where it was just physics class and everything was like kind of being redundant, the same, using the same formulas. And I hated it after that. And it's like, that's when it's like, I need to do art because it's something I really love to do. And I know if I have to wake up, because I didn't think I was going to make money off it. Yeah. Like for the first 3-4 years, that's never
so cool. Yeah. So that's like how I feel that. And that's what I'm saying. Anything that I'm like always trying to find like maybe what the next thing is. And I want it to be something I feel that same way about. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm doing this, because it's like I just like genuinely love talking.
Yeah, and it's like somewhere where you're gonna put all the effort into it. You're gonna have the setup fucking dope and shit. And like, if it's something you just want to make money off it, you're just gonna cut corners and do everything.
Yeah, because your goal is money.
Yeah, and it's like you can't live like that.
You're gonna short-sighted.
Yeah, because you're gonna hate everything. Because I imagine if I did do engineering and I ended up doing that, I probably would not be as happy. I'll be like, fucking, I would have been making money right off the bat.
Well, the cool thing about what you're doing now is it might actually afford you to do that kind of stuff just because you like it, like airplane stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like as you establish as a tattoo artist, like now you could probably afford and have the time to be like, fuck it, I'll take more flight lessons. Yeah. It's like you use one thing to do another thing you love too. Yeah. That's the same how I feel about this, Like for the first time when I started this, I'm not like thinking about like, oh, how much are the good microphones? It's like, no, I'll just get the good ones and then
you do it right. Because like fucking, if you buy something cheap, you're eventually gonna have to upgrade anyway. So why are you gonna spend it twice?
I think this is just more shit you learn as you get older. Yeah, like, honestly, so you can't jump to those conclusions. Like even though you buy cheap undershirts and next thing you know they have holes in them. Yeah, or it's like you just spend double the amount and actually get like 4 times the amount of time out of the same shirt. Yeah, stuff like that. Like it's like, well, wait a minute. Like I'm looking long term, but I think that's the opposite mentality of like the poor in the sense that like you don't have like a
you can kind of try to make do with what you have.
Yeah, I think when you only have so many resources, you can only allocate a small amount of them to get what you need immediately. But when you have enough resources, you can spend them more wisely, maybe more up front to get more. Yeah. And then that just happens more. And then I think that's just also the way you spend your time, energy, and experience, not just literally money. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna fuck with a friend who causes me anguish because it's just like I only have so much energy as it is. Like I have to spend time with my wife and maintain a relationship, maintain a studio, maintain a high level of tattooing, maintain hobbies, friends. It's like, dude, if you're causing me any kind of like,
I don't need it right now. Yeah, get out of the way.
Yeah, you're not in my fucking get out my algorithm.
Yeah, it's like, get out here. I don't need to see this shit.
Yeah, it's just I just can't afford it.
Yeah, it's like I got too much. Only got a certain amount of time and energy to deal with things, and it's not going to be for that. Exactly. Take that shit out the way.
Touche. Hell yeah, man. Speaking of which, taking care of ourselves, I'm getting hungry, and I think we should go eat.
Hell yeah, I'm down. I'm down for some barbecue.
Yeah, you've had Terry Blacks before?
I have had Terry Blacks, but
no? I've had that kind of shit?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's what we should do.
Fuck yeah, I'm down.
Hell yeah, because I didn't even eat today fully, so.
No, all I had was Chick-fil-A minis at like 6 a.m.
Yeah, we did 3 hours of talking. I think that's
that was that. Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're just having fun, so I feel like we could just do this for so long.
Shit,
so then just have to come back.
I'm down. I definitely had a blast.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah, dude. Well, thanks again.
No, appreciate for inviting me, man.
And how do the listeners find you?
Hell, you can find me on either Instagram, Jordi_M4L, JORDI_M4L, or just JordiPlaTattoos.com.
Yeah, man. Give this boy a follow.
Whoop, whoop.
Thanks, guys. Deuces. Peace.